Welcome to another Legend of the Crystal Reviews. In case you're new to the channel, this is my series where I'm going through every mainline Final Fantasy game backwards, and a bunch of spin-offs I want to talk about. I talk about the development, go through a story summary, and then review the various aspects of each game. I've been through 15 and 13 so far, and now I'm tackling 14. I'll be going through each expansion as if they were their own game, as each expansion is as long as a normal Final Fantasy game. I put 100 hours into the first part alone. As you can see, this video is about that part, A Realm Reborn and its patches. Honestly, I was kind of wondering for a while how I would tackle an MMO and almost outright skip this game, but I think I figured it out and I had a blast doing it, so you guys shall see the fruits of my labor. Now, there is something I like to say before we start this video. This isn't meant to push anyone away, in fact it is to give you guys a warning. If you're not into MMOs but love Final Fantasy and want to try this game because of things people keep saying, oh, you can play this like a single player Final Fantasy game, ignore that statement, it's wrong. While a lot of the MSQ, main story quests, and a good amount of side quests can be done alone, you will still need to play them with other people and interact with them. I think this game does a great job of not forcing you to interact with people all the time, so you don't have to keep up with everyone or you will fail miserably type of thing, but it is not a game you can fully treat like an offline Final Fantasy game like people claim. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, as I have social anxiety issues and performance anxiety, and I thought I wouldn't be able to handle that part, but I was, and if you get some friends, it can be a really good time, especially since they'll give you pointers like my friends did. I just wanted to warn you guys who are like me and have social issues and, get really scared of playing MMOs like that, because I just didn't want anyone to go into the game with the wrong impression like I did at first and thought I was going to have a miserable time. Alright, let's get into the review.
We'll speak later, Ascian. But first, I must deal with you. The question of who is mightier remains. Come, adventurer. Let us find the answer together.
With the successful launch of Final Fantasy XI in 2002, it proved that Final Fantasy could still be innovative and hold its own outside of the single-player RPG scape. Square was having non-stop success in the market, until a small little MMO made by some guys called Blizzard came onto the scene, named World of Warcraft. Launching in 2004, after XI's expansion Chains of Promathia, it took over its entire player base in 1 month. Square was falling behind. WoW was changing the MMO genre so much more than 11 did when it came out. Square didn't want to fall behind and needed a piece of that pie. While the man originally behind the idea and vision of 11, Hironobu Sakaguchi, was gone, the people he put into the role of running the ship that was 11, Tanaka Hiromichi and Koichi Ishii, were still at the company, so Square decided to make a new MMO. That way they wouldn't be irrelevant in this new era of MMORPGs. They thought about making it a sequel to FF11 at first because it worked really well with FF10, but they decided against it in the end. This time, Koichi wouldn't be joining the project, as he would be busy producing the Mana series and eventually leaving to form Grezzo. When working on this new project, a lot of the team had come over from FF11. Tanaka came back as the producer for this title. Nobuaki Komoto, one of the directors of 11, became the head director and lead game designer. Shintaro Tamai would be assistant director. Hiroshi Takai was lead artist alongside Akihiko Yoshida, designer of many wonderful things such as gorgeous backgrounds in multiple games, art director, and these wonderful characters, especially the Nier ones. They're so good.
I want a diamond ring, I want some bracelets and everything.
Apologies. You may know Takai right now as the director of Final Fantasy XVI, as well as an artist on battle graphics for multiple Final Fantasies and Saga games. He also directed The Last Remnant. Akihiko Matsui, a battle system designer on multiple Final Fantasies, and one of the 3 directors of Chrono Trigger, was the lead combat designer. Hiroshi Minagawa, who was the director on FF12, led web design. Hideyuki Kasuga became lead programmer. The original soundtrack was handled by Nobuo Uematsu, as he usually did for mainline Final Fantasies until Final Fantasy X. This would be his first full mainline Final Fantasy OST since FF9, with some assistance from Naoshi Mizuta, Ryo Yamazaki, Tsuyoshi Sekito, and Masayoshi Soken, who were on the game as sound designers. Global community producer would be Toshio Murouchi, and finally, the script and lore would be done by Yakeo Sato, as she did on Final Fantasy XI and Final Fantasy XII. With this team assembled, it was time to start work. First, they made a tech demo for this project and showed it off at E3 2005. This was running on a development version of Crystal Tools, and it was so advanced it wouldn't be able to actually run on a PS3 at the time, according to Naoki Yoshida. The game was officially announced as the new MMO Rapture in 2006, and it was stated it would be a worldwide release on PC, Xbox 360, and PS3. Everyone was excited that a new Square MMO was on the way. During the time, the majority of people thought Square was one of the best gaming companies in the world. You might have noticed I didn't seem to go into a personal history with this game. Well, that's because I don't have one. I will deviate for a moment here to explain my short history of MMOs. I didn't like them. I played RuneScape for a few days and it didn't click with me. I couldn't afford WoW, so I just saw videos and heard about it from friends. Combat looked terrible to me. I didn't know how people could have fun with this game. So when Rapture was revealed as FF14 in 2009 for the PS3, I just didn't care. I paid zero attention to anything surrounding it, just like I did with FF11 at the same time, or before. I would eventually come around to it, and I'll save that for the review. Let's get back to the development history. So while stuff seemed good on the surface, it was going bad because of Crystal Tools, like it was a problem with the other games that used it. They took team members from the main games team to get the engine up and running for Final Fantasy XIV. So one of the issues was the team decided to use script execution. Execution of scripts was used so that development would be easier on the dev team. Problem was, they used this for almost everything, including the UI. Doing so used a lot of CPU resources. Anything they did would slow down the game on a server level. It didn't help that every individual game section of the team was isolated from each other. Graphics and art, modeling, level design, UI, you know the works. Once it was put together, the problems rose to the surface, which was noticed by the localization team headed by Koji Fox. As seeing the others were playing, they noticed things like the combat wasn't fun because it wasn't learning from stuff like WoW, the graphics were inconsistent, copy and paste parts of the world while some objects had as many polygons as a character, specifically the barrels, nerfed hardcore players so they wouldn't be too far ahead of the new players, you couldn't use your mouse, no jumping or auto attack, and too much space between content due to stuff like story scenes using motion capture. And god, did the cutscenes look fucking good. The game was ambitious, and they were trying to do good things and stuff differently from 11, and one of those things was that the story was a big focus, but it came at a price. Yoshida thought that another reason that the game was having problems, alongside the ones listed above, was the arrogance of Square Enix developers. Even down to the smallest man in the company, everyone thought they were just the best at making anything in the world. While other developers were making their lives easier through technology, the devs thought that their old ways of making assets one by one at the highest quality was the way to go. This wasn't helped by the fact that the people who could make the tech to ease the process were busy building Crystal Tools. Despite all these issues, the game was officially announced in 2009 as Final Fantasy XIV and for the PS3 as a console exclusive while launching on PC at the same time. The team thought they had it hit on their hands. This stuff wasn't seen as an issue for them until they launched the closed beta. Player feedback made them realize this was not a good game, but at that point, it was too late. Before the open beta came around, some of the team was wondering should they even release the game because of what Koji Fox and them were saying. But in September of 2010, they released it anyway, and it enjoyed some success for its first couple of weeks with 600,000 players online, and the game sold really well. Soon though, people started to notice the issues I mentioned before, and some others. One of them was how some of the models were so detailed that PCs were chugging and or the game was crashing because the systems at the time could not handle it. Players were frustrated. Critics hated it, as I stated in the 15 video, but I'll add a little more here, so you guys get some more scores. This hurt the team and the company. They were making so many apology letters telling people that they did indeed fail. Some of them even came from Wada himself. This was the reality check the development staff all over the company needed. Yuichi Wada eventually got Naoki Yoshida to talk to the team, as the development for Dragon Quest X was already going smoothly and he wasn't needed there anymore. At the time of him joining, he knew nobody on the team, so he had to show how much he wanted to help them make this game successful by taking individual members and calling it a secret task force that was put together by Wada, and he learned from them about what they wanted to do to fix the game. One of the first things he did was make them go out and play other MMOs, as they had never done that, surprising him. But this just shows how much arrogance people at Square Enix had. Yoshida found it was necessary for the company to put all hands on deck if they wanted to save this game. He went to Wada and asked for a company-wide emergency to be sent out so that people would join the team. Wada talked to multiple devs, and a good amount of them asked if Yoshida could fully join the team. Corporate then took Kumoto and Tanaka out of their spots and replaced both with Naoki Yoshida, making him the director and producer of Final Fantasy XIV. While this was seen as a great thing, it was also a sad one. Yoshida had to stop working on a new IP for Square Enix that he had been planning to make, which means that an unknown game from him was cancelled. He was disappointed in this, but he was also excited to work on one of the franchises that led him to join the company in the first place. One of the first things he did was replace people and make the task force the head of the project. He then states how it was at first when he first joined the team. I gave a speech saying that we don't really know each other, so if you don't like me or how I work, you can move to a different team. But please give me at least 3 months. We will push through this and we will not give up on this project. During this course of time, some thought he was working them too hard, and some didn't like how he ran things. One of the people who was with him from the start was Masayoshi Soken. He was one of the few people who told everyone in the company that yes, I believe in him, we can do this. After a few months of rest and research, Yoshi P came back to corporate with 2 plans. One of the plans was one that no one had ever done before in the industry. Plan A, make it more enjoyable for the current base even if it wouldn't allow players to be satisfied and would have damaged the brand forever. Or Plan B, to apply patches to the current Final Fantasy XIV while in the background and making the game from scratch. This was a huge risk and it had never been done before, and he wanted to give it to PS3 owners as well since it was promised in 2009. Yoshi stated that the franchise taking a risk like this isn't new, and honestly, I agree. Releasing it under the exact same name was a risk that they probably wouldn't have done if it wasn't Final Fantasy. He was confident, corporate was too, as they had went ahead and picked Plan B. This was a monumental task that usually takes up to 5 years, but Yoshida and his team of over 300 people, both internally and externally, would make it happen. Of course, I cannot continue without mentioning the faces of this new team of greats now, can I? A lot of them were actually the same people, but there were some changes in positions. As I stated, Yoshida is director and producer now. Komoto was put into lead game design. Takai would become assistant director, replacing Shintaro Tamai in that position. Naoi Matsuda as assistant producer. Kasuga, Akihiko, and Hiroshi would keep their same positions, but Akihiko would be joined by the great Mitsuyoshi Gondai for art direction. The music department would be the same exact group, except there was one change. The one guy that was with Yoshida from the jump and enthusiastic as hell to do this project, Masayoshi Soken, would become the main sound director and composer, taking over from Nobuo Uematsu, who would still contribute, but in a smaller role. And my god, was this a great change. I will explain in the music section, and I'm super fucking excited to talk about it. Akihiko Yoshida would also become main character designer, alongside being art director. Lead character concept artist would be Kazuya Takahashi. Lead character artist would be Kenichi Baba. Lead cutscene artist would be Masaki Imamura. Lead background artist would be Junichi Murata. Lead animator would be Shinya Ichida. Lead art designer would be Takeo Suzuki. Lead tech artist would be Atsushi Sakamoto. Co-lead VFX artist would be Yoshimatsu Furukawa. And Murochi would, along with some others, stay in his position too. Benari Oda and Koji Fox, who was a localization director, would join in the writing team. That writing team consisted of Natsuo Ishikawa, Kazutoyo Mahiro, Yakuyo Sato, and of course, Naoki Yoshida himself. They would work on scenario, lore, character arcs, and job quest lines, alongside other story stuff. Kazutoyo would be the scenario director, which I assume gives him a lot of input into what would work and what doesn't. I'm not 100% positive. I feel like he had a lot to say because the narrative is very similar to a Matsuno game, which he worked on as event planners among other things. With all positions filled, the 2-year plan was laid out, it was time to get to work. They needed a new engine. They got an in-development version of a Luminous engine that they made work for their needs. It became so different, it's not the luminous engine you see in 15 and Forspoken. Communication with the community was one of the first things they got down to. They told the remaining players who still had faith in them that things would get better, and they laid out some of the plans and ideas to fix some problems. Things that were added and fixed included updating the UI to be more streamlined, allowing you to use keyboard and mouse, adding 8-man parties, auto attack, grand companies, stable servers, make the battle system more strategic, add jobs, add mounts like chocobos, and add more summon sites. You know, put Final Fantasy in this Final Fantasy game. There was a stop in development during the Tokyo earthquake in 2011, which held the game back from releasing earlier than it did. Understandably, that event shook the entire nation of Japan. They eventually announced online that 2.0 was happening and posted some screenshots of what it would look like. The patches that came out leading up to 2.0 made people that stuck with the game enjoy it a lot more. During their time playing, players noticed that there was something in the sky, something called Dalamud, and as time went on, it seemed to get bigger. When it was revealed at E3 that it would be an overhaul called A Realm Reborn, more people started to see that the ball Dalamud was indeed getting bigger, and that it was gonna change the game forever. The developers even made so that the story would revolve around it and introduce new characters and lore to the world of Final Fantasy XIV. A haunting version of the main A Realm Reborn theme Answers played during this final week. Everyone, including the devs, had a lot of fun with the final 1.0 version. Devs were spawning in monsters to kill and monsters were attacking city-states. They were doing this while they were shutting down the servers. During this time, people who still played 1.0 or 1.23b got perks for A Realm Reborn, such as free copies of the game, lifetime discounts, a legacy chocobo, a legacy tattoo, and a lot more, as a thanks for being there during the development phase of a new Final Fantasy XIV. Eventually, the game shut down and the opening cutscene for A Realm Reborn played. After 1.0 was gone, and A Realm Reborn was about to launch, they had an early access. The early access had its own sets of issues too, and Yoshida apologized in the Final Fantasy XIV forums, and he extended the early access launch. After all the early access issues, the time for the game to launch as Final Fantasy XIV A Realm Reborn came. A launch event was held. Devs went into detail about the process of making this happen, and Yoshida apologized for the errors and problems during the early access. There were tears from him and there were cheers from the fans. However, even though Final Fantasy XIV A Realm Reborn had launched and it was pretty successful, the development never ends. And of course, it doesn't for an MMO until it shuts down. They were able to achieve their goal of PS3 launch and the player base grew a lot. There were some issues with the servers again, but they got patched out along with other things, and the problems didn't last long. The Final Fantasy brand was saved in many people's eyes, and this is where the development story for Final Fantasy XIV 2.0 ends. Now for me, you know, your boy, I played the game when it launched on PS4 in 2014, but I just couldn't get into it. The story wasn't grabbing me and I just didn't get the combat. I tried again in 2016 when Stormblood came out, but again, had the same issues. Tried again in 2017, then again in 2020 because Shadowbringers had a collaboration with Final Fantasy VII Remake on PSN for like a little theme. It was really cool. I didn't get the theme because it was Japanese only. I then tried again in October 2021, and this time I actually beat A Realm Reborn, as you can obviously see. But did I beat it just so I can have a video to make, or did I actually enjoy myself with a full-fledged MMO this time? Well, you'll find out that answer soon. So I was debating if I should include the 1.0 story because it's not required. I was not there. The game doesn't expect you to know 1.0 at all, so I won't talk about it that much. It's not needed. But during the review, I will compare things I think would be cool to compare, like cutscenes, mocap, and some stuff like the menus. But I'm going to do this summary as someone who wasn't there, like I'm sure most of us were not. So I'm just going to focus on 2.0 to 2.55. Let's get into it. Spoilers, obviously, if you don't want to know anything about the narrative, there is a time you can skip to in the description that will take you to the part of the video you care to hear about. On the planet Hydaelyn, a planet blessed by the light of the crystal, in the land of Eorzea, there are eras. Each one is split by periods of calamity, the Umbral Era, and periods of prosperity, the Astral Era. During the 6th Umbral Era, the Garlean Empire invaded the continent of Eorzea to take it over. The major city-states gathered their arms to stop the invasion. The Empire slowly dropped a moon called Dalamud to use as a weapon that would aid them in achieving victory and claim Eorzea. The people of Eorzea couldn't stop it. Time had run out. However, it was not just any moon that would give them victory and control. It was a cage for the monster, Bahamut. Bahamut unleashed its might onto both armies, causing nothing but destruction. An old mage and some others try to trap it back into another magic spear, but to no avail. Since they can't stop it, they send our heroes away, and Bahamut drops a meteor onto the planet. 5 years have passed since then, and Eorzea is starting to rebuild itself. After this, you create your character unless you played 1.0, and depending on which class you start with, you get a different city-state to start in. You'll have a different starting storyline depending on where you begin, but you'll eventually get to a point where it converges and everything onward is the same as anyone. I started as a monk, so my journey begins in Ul'dah. I'm going to treat this as I would any other Final Fantasy story, so instead of going like I or me, I'm going to act as if my character, Cloud, yes, Cloud Strife, was a normal Final Fantasy protagonist. I hope you enjoy me saying Cloud over and over and over again. It's really fun. A voice calls out to Cloud, saying, "Hear, feel, think." A man in a black robe stands before him. He acquires a set of monk armor, and as he attacks the black robed man, he awakens. To a grizzled older man and two twins, all in the same carriage on their way to the same destination. The ride is stopped by a group called the Brass Blades, a band of mercenaries who are employed by the leaders of Ul'dah, the Syndicate. They start to harass the caravan, claiming it's an inspection. Our old friend here claims he has nothing to hide. However, they find a prohibited herb called Somnus and vow to lock him in the dungeon. An attack from a group of beastmen from the beastmen tribe, the Amalja, breaks this up though. Beastmen have their own culture, technology, and beliefs. Their beliefs being the reason they are called beastmen. They force the Blades to change their attention to them, and the carriage speeds off towards Ul'dah. The old man introduces himself to Cloud after learning he is a new adventurer, and he advises him to go to the Adventurers Guild as that'll be the best place to start. He tells us about the political climate of Ul'dah, the royalists that support the Sultana, Nanamo, the monetarists who think of her as no more than a figurehead and are loyal to the Syndicate. While they can't have full control over Ul'dah, they might as well have it, as Nanamo doesn't really have much power. Cloud arrives in the city and sees the old man off. He makes his way to the Adventurers Guild, located in the Ul'dah hub, the Quicksand, where we meet the woman who runs the show, Momodi. Momodi gets Cloud up to date with what's happening around Ul'dah and the world. The Amalja have been a problem here for a long time. The Garlean Empire has not given up on their conquest, and people are still uneasy about the calamity, even if it was 5 years ago. There's also this group called the Warriors of Light, a group of heroes that helped the realm 5 years ago, but they can't be remembered outside of that. After we do some small tasks like looking for Aethersight teleportation crystals that allow you to move between the cities, we then join the Pulgius Guild to learn the way of the Fist, and after that get our way around the marketplace. Now, small disclaimer, I will not be including the story of any job guilds for this. Story summary is for the main story and things that tie into it. Now, you could argue that it's important to your character's story, and I would definitely agree, but since I think every job has a job storyline, I wouldn't feel right just including one. I will talk a little about it during the side content section. I hope you can forgive me for doing this if you were looking forward to that. After all that, Momodi asks Cloud to go see Papa Shah, as he should have some words for him. Papa Shah tells Cloud that there is a lot of work to be done to rebuild the land after the calamity. First, hand out pretzels to the sentries. While handing out food, Cloud is told that there is nothing to report, and that disappoints Papa Shah. He needed info as they are looking for a young noblewoman who has ran away from home, and she needs to be found. Cloud is asked to please find her. Her name, Lady Liera. Cloud of course agrees and finds her to the south. She's praying under the Sultan tree. A white-haired man is also there who has been following her to make sure she's okay. He mentions the mana in the world of Hydaelyn and how there's a disturbance in this area. After some talking, he finally gets her to agree to go home, but while this is happening, the group is attacked by monsters. Cloud and the white-haired man defeat the monster and it drops a crystal. He picks up the crystal and then is sent to a dream world, just like at the start of the game. This time, a ring with 6 slots shows up, and one of them lights up the crystal within it. The voice from before calls him the Crystal Bearer and calls itself Hydaelyn, the same name as the world, explaining that the darkness is starting to take over the world and asks that Cloud bring the light and free everyone from the darkness that is slowly taking over. To do this, he needs to go forth in the guide of the crystals of light. He awakens to the white-haired man and Liera standing over him. He's told the monsters are called Voicent. They're controlled by people who are definitely stronger than your average bandit, so this is definitely not a good thing. Cloud explains the dream. The man tells him that he understands what was happening in that dream, but doesn't really explain anything other than that. Useless! He says we shall meet again and walks off. The Lyra and Cloud go back to Papa Shah, who's happy she is safe, and talks about how the Sultana would be upset if anything happened to her. It seems like they were looking for something important, but it wasn't found, so she agrees to go back to the city since there's no point in looking further. Cloud tells Papa Shah about the man he met. Papa Shah tells him that the man is named Thancred, a scholar who investigates the Aether. Since there's nothing else to do here, he's told by Papa Shah to go to a place called the Coffer and Coffin to deliver a package for him, a tavern outside of town where he could find some work. He's directed to the Black Brush Station, where he meets Warren, a part of a mercenary group called the Stone Torches, employed by a mining company to protect their interests. Warren tells him that there's a tunnel where one shipment usually passes through that has a monster problem. Goblins feast on ore, and since a storehouse of ore is close, they nested there. It's an issue for the shipments, so they gotta go. After that's done, a new task is given to Clout where he's required to go to some ruins, as it's a place with some untapped ore. The request is from a man named Winston, who wants to gain favor with the thaumaturges, the group who drafts the law in Ul'dah. Winston tells us that he's already hired some brass blades, so we're not needed. But he gives Cloud another task: tell the kids that he can't play today, and give them these cookies, which Cloud does. After this, he tells Cloud his goals. After he finds the ore, he wants to change the laws for the refugees in Ul'dah, who aren't having the best of time here, as the laws are basically made to be against them. They're interrupted by the hired brass blades, who tell him that they found the ore, and Winston invites Cloud as this is a great discovery that could change the lives of many. When Cloud gets there though, Winston and his friends are beaten down by the brass blades. Winston can't have this ore. The Syndicate fills their pockets, and if the refugees get it, the Syndicate will have a less favor in the government. They won't allow anyone to get in the way of the Syndicate. Before they can take us out, the scuffle is interrupted by a black-robed man doing a weird chant. It summons a golem. The blades escape, running like cowards, and Clout does his best to protect Winston. After he wins, the rope dude leaves, after realizing Clout isn't your average everyday adventurer. Thancred shows up looking at him, causing another vision headache. A visache, if you will. I'm sorry. He sees Thancred and Ul'dah flirting with two women. He's just like me, for real. He stops for a second, overhears that the Amalja have been attacking caravans and stealing crystals. Their reason? They might be aiming to summon a primal. He thinks that the growing grain is getting scarce due to the flow of the Aether from the Aether plane getting weaker because of Dalamud and the summoning of primals. He looks around to see the Aether with the Aether goggles, and the vision ends. After the vision, Thancred jokes that Cloud seems to be a magnet for Aether disturbances, so you should follow him around. He has to be elsewhere though, so he can't actually. He talks to someone on an earpiece of some kind, saying that the one they're looking for has left. Before he leaves, he tells Cloud to watch out for Lord Lololito. I wonder who that is. He set the trap apparently, as there's no one else who could have set this up other than him. Winston and Cloud get back to the inn, and Winston thanks Cloud. He is furious that Lololito would want him dead because he wants better for the people who are suffering. Capitalism, man. Winston has to go into hiding now because everyone he knows is in danger if he doesn't. He promises Cloud that he would make it seem like he wasn't involved in any way, and suggests he go get help from Momodi in case that isn't enough. We get to Momodi and learn that no one knows of our involvement, but Winston isn't so lucky. She hopes that these events didn't shape our view of Ul'dah in a bad way, and suggests that he go to the inn, which he does. The next day, Momodi suggests he go to the Horizon. She wants Cloud to take a chocobo instead of walk, as it's a faster way to get to where he wants to go. He makes it to Horizon and meets Dadaden. Horizon is a very busy place, as it's where the goods from Vesper Bay go to be transported all over the region. Since it's so busy, he would like some help from Cloud. A man he sent to the mines hadn't returned, so Cloud needs to go look for him. Cloud finds him and learns that the mining company had shut down the mines after an incident. Goblins were there and had forced him to get out, leaving the stones behind. Easy peasy work for Cloud. After he gives the man the stone, we learn that the brass blades are paying people to clear out sun midges. We need cash now! So he clears them out. Foopalupa is impressed after hearing Cloud did that with only his fist, and asks him to go see if a courier who was delivering notes between him and Captain Leofric is okay. He finds her and finds out the reason she had stopped was because a chocobo had been injured. She suggests that Cloud delivers these letters instead, so he does. He finds Leofric, who's surprised that Fufulupa was so desperate to get him this letter, and reveals that he has been demoted and sent to this tiny camp called Lost Hope as punishment, where outcasts and refugees live. He wants Clout to go so he isn't associated with him, but Clout says no. I need more work, man, so he gives him the task to take care of some bandits who are robbing the people of Lost Hope. Clout goes to kill him. Leofric, being happy with these results, thanks Clout, and since he trusts him after this, he asks him to take the sacred dagger of the brass blades of Fufulupa. Fufulupa is surprised to receive it, but he assumes that it's just for safekeeping. He has yet another task for our hero. The Thaumaturges are surveying their region for ancient relics and are being protected by the brass blades, but are understaffed, so he wonders if he can help. He agrees and meets a brass blade, but he's mad as hell that they would send a random person to help and makes him run some errands instead. Fuck you. After he does, he's approached by a woman who overheard some bandits plan to come here for the precious gemstones. Foopalupa overhears and says that the Brass Blades can't abide by this and goes to Captain Baldwin to get help. However, the woman tells us that Baldwin is the one giving the gemstones and Cloud has to hurry and stop him before Foopalupa is injured. Foopalupa gets to Baldwin and sees him with the bandit. He's shocked and confused on why he's doing this. Baldwin says it's because Lolorito asked him, of course. Cloud gets there to help. Foopalupa beat up the bandit that Baldwin was with. The bandit recognizes Clout as the one who killed his brother from the camp we took over to save Lost Hope. A battle for revenge begins with Fufu and Clout being the victors. Leo Frick shows up after and exposes Baldwin as a liar. Lolorito doesn't care about low-level money exchanges and knows Baldwin had been using his name to get money like this. His days as a blade are over. Leo Frick still believes that not everyone in the Blades are dishonorable. It's why he gave Fufulupa the blade in the first place. Baldwin, now stripped of rank and arrested, Fufulupa becomes captain of the Horizon branch. He's obviously very proud of this. I am too. You go, little guy. They start looking through Baldwin's belongings to find the root of the corruption. They find out he's been speaking with the Sultan sworn named Owen. They are the personal guard of the Sultana. It's very shocking that they would be at the root of this. We take it back to Momodi and she thanks us, saying that Owen being part of this doesn't make any sense. She tells us that the crown has been stolen. It's a symbol of the royal dynasty, so this is really bad and is being kept a secret. If this got out, the syndicate would basically rise to complete power, even more than they have right now. There's a letter to Owen in it, so we deliver it to him. He tells us that he didn't steal the crown. However, it was stolen on his watch and he feels awful for it. The letter is a ransom note, so he feels he's obligated to go get it back because of the importance of the crown. He can't chance going alone, but he also can't scare the thieves. So he asks his Clout to come while staying a little bit behind. They meet the thieves and they feel betrayed that Owen brought someone with him. He promises it's just Clout, but they don't believe him and try to call it off. Before they can though, Owen gives them the payment. They start to laugh at Owen as he had no idea what he actually gave them. A magical relic called the Traitor's Sperm. A relic that will allow them to make an army of undying soldiers. Having this, they try to take out our heroes, but Papa Shah and the other Sultan Sworn show up. The battle commences, and after fighting them and some monsters they summon, we come out victorious, but the crown isn't there, and some thieves leave. The Sultan's guard go after them and Clout stays behind as the black robed man shows up. The man tells him that the source of his strength becomes clear, but he will not survive this encounter. He summons a void scent and attacks Clout. The towering monster isn't a problem for Clout, he defeats it pretty easily. Thancred joins and they defeat the robed man too. After his defeat, he says that the wisdom of the Paragon have been brought low by mortals. Weird, I don't know why he said that. But anyways, Thancred said that his group had a feeling that the robed man was involved in the movement of some bad things going on in the world like it just happened here. He comments that it is interesting that he always finds Clout during his events and says that he has to be one of the gifted. He, again, doesn't elaborate and tells him that now that things are quiet because of the death of the Asian, but tells him that things should be quiet now that the Asian died. I guess that's the black robe guy, okay? He just leaves after saying that. Clout notices a dark crystal lying on the rock, but before he can pick it up, it disappears. Since there's nothing left to do here, he returns to the Sultan Sworn. There, we learn that Papa Shan used to be a Sworn, but left to become a station master. Despite this, he still guards Nanamo whenever she leaves the city, and felt it was his duty to help find the crown. Thankfully, they did get the crown back. Papa Shan and Nanamo thank Clout personally. Hey, wait a minute, you're Lilira! She tells Clout she has heard of his tales, well yeah, you were there for some of them, and how they've been nothing but helpful to the crown and announces him as her champion. She has her main man Raubon see to it that Clout gets to the banquet as their personal guest. Raubon is a former gladiator and leader of the Immortal Flames, the military under Ul'dah and personal friend of Nanamo. They both hope to see Clout at the banquet and leave. Owain tells him how much of an honor this is and that he'll need to learn the ways of the fantasy. Momodi will teach him, so he goes to her. Momodi congratulates him and explains how rare this is. He'll need some special earrings. A set has been made by the Goldsmith Guild already, so he just has to go grab them. He gets there, he's given the earrings, then makes his way to the banquet. During the feast, Nanamo has a speech praising Clout and calls him a friend of the crown. During the feast, Clout is approached by Raubon. He tells him about the suffering of the common folk as they dine on food that should be going to children. He doesn't blame Nanamo, but the syndicate. Nanamo can't do more and she feels awful about it. During this, the crystal starts to shine and Raubon notices. He asks Clout if he has had strange dreams or visions of a crystal. He then proceeds to tell us about 5 years ago. Heroes who could also do this and gathered the grand companies together to fight against the Empire. They were the Warriors of Light. Raubon thinks Clout is a Warrior of Light and asks him to keep the crystal safe as it allows him to connect to Hydaelyn, the guiding spirit of the world. Another vision happens. We see the Battle of Cartano. All the leaders are together watching, and Asian with a red mask is watching as the battle is going terribly. Bahamut is ravaging the land. Kane-senna thinks they should withdraw, but Raoban doesn't want to abandon Louis Schwa, a sage who is casting a cage to recapture Bahamut. They have to go, there's nothing they can do. The Grand Company's leaders stay behind as support, and the Red Asian is gassed as fuck at Bahamut destroying everything. We wake up in an inn greeted by Momodi. Cloud has been knocked out for a while. It happened in the middle of a conversation, so Raoban brought him back to the inn. Momodi gives him a letter from Raoban asking to meet Clout, so Clout does that. He wants to hold a ceremony in honor of the old warriors, and asks that Clout visit each leader. If he's connected to the Warriors of Light, he would have no one else do it. He grants Clout access to the airship pass, so he can access all 3 city-states. It is usually restricted due to avoiding being noticed by the Empire, but he knows Clout has unlimited potential. He wants him to see Eorzea. If anything gets in your way, strike fast and true. Before leaving, Clout tells Momodi that he's become a personal envoy for Uldah's empire. She's ecstatic that he got this opportunity. Most won't even be able to see the other city-states in their lifetime, so Clout should savor this. But he should be careful. The rest of Eorzea isn't trouble-free. After this, she wishes him good luck and he goes to the airship. Everyone he's encountered so far sees him off. It is revealed that Lalera was Nanamo using a disguise so she could find the crown. As I stated before, it's pretty obvious. Nanamo says she sensed something unusual about Cloud ever since she met him and hopes that other leaders feel the same way. As we leave Ul'dah behind, the main theme of Final Fantasy plays, signifying that this is the start of our new adventure. The perspective of the story changes to the Garlean base in Eorzea. Men in special armor get off the ship. One starts to think back 15 years ago. A fleet of Garleans were sailing in their elite ship, the Agrius, for the region of Mordona in Eorzea. The invasion was going smoothly due to the terrible defense of Eorzea. However, they were stopped by an army of dragons led by the great Midgar Zomar. He died during the attack, but they were successful in stopping the invasion. The Garleans have failed twice, but they will not give up. They vow to save Eorzea from its chaos and its people. After this, the Empire is seen lifting something from camp, and 2 soldiers commenting on the failures of conquest of Eorzea, having doubts about them doing it again. A man named Nero approaches them, questioning their doubts and wonders where they were born. One of them says they were from Alamingo, a place that was conquered by the Empire. Feeling he's a traitor, Nero slays him where he stands. He then speaks to the heaven, claiming Garlemald will know the true power of Magitech. We arrive in Limsa Lominsa. First thing to do is meet the leader, Merylwib, a former pirate. Clout hands her Raoban's letter, stating he wants to hold a remembrance ceremony to honor the fallen of the 5th anniversary of the Calamity. Merylwib starts to think back to the battle, and Bahamut, saying she hasn't seen anything like that before or since. The reason they survived was that everyone was enveloped in a bright light, and when they came to, Bahamut was gone, but the land was ravaged. While the Calamity is gone, Eorzea still has its problems. The Garleans and the Primals, or gods, some would call them false gods. They are the beings that the Beastmen pray to. She thinks they need new warriors to save them, but since there doesn't seem to be any, this memorial service might be the thing that unites the realm once again. After sending off a letter to Raoban, she says goodbye to Clout, and since Clout is heading off to Gridania, she asks him to give the Elder Seedseer her regard. She also mentions that a wolf has been sniffing around the stables. Clout takes the airship, lands at Gridania, and goes to see Kane-senna, the Elder Seedseer. After a warm greeting, she takes the message from Clout and provides information on the Empire of Garlemald. They're from the northern continent, Isilbard. They were pretty obscure up until 50 years ago. They experienced a revolution in Magitech technology, a special technology that was powered by a material called cerulean. Most Garlean citizens can't use magic, like the people of Eorzea can, so to compensate, they made Magitech, which let them grow into an empire. This wouldn't have been possible without the man who created the empire, Solvus Sol Galvus. There were rumors that he is a growing weak, creating tension in Garlemald, which would explain why it's taking so long for them to strike again. They do, however, still have a presence here. As we stated before, they have a base specifically built in Eorzea. It's run by Gaius von Balzar. The phrase, the wolf has been sniffing around the stables, means that the Empire is about to take their stance. Kane agrees that it's time to unite once again. On his way out, Cloud is stopped by an officer of the Twinator, Gridania's Grand Company. He tells us that the proprietor of the tavern in Limsa has a task and he should check it out. He teleports back to Limsa and meets Beredion, who warns him that the job he's taking is going to probably be dangerous. Some suspicious among us individuals have been sneaking around a settlement near Airport, the Sastasha Sea front. They are interrupted by a commander from the Limbs of Peacekeeping Force, the Yellow Jacket. He's leading the investigation and stopped by to offer information. There have been sightings of an unfamiliar vessel off the site of Airport, and while they haven't found anything noteworthy, he thinks it's worth another look into. Since they're occupied with the local beastmen, they need help from an adventurer, who would be Clout. The best way to get there is by ferry. He rides it to his destination. Someone tells him he should check out the Hall of Novice to train, so he does. After training there and getting some good gear for it, he heads to Sastasha and is told it's likely home to the pirates named the Serpent Reavers, who have moved into Sastasha. They're a bloodthirsty bunch who have more than once joined up with the local beast tribe, the Sahagin. After recruiting other adventurers, he heads in. Tackling the dungeon wasn't an easy task, but with friends by his side, he makes it so the Reavers' hideout is easy peasy. He sees the captain and gives him chase. The captain tries to use the Sahagan's lair as a way for protection, but the leader of the Sahagan den, the Orcatooth, isn't happy about this and kills the captain on the spot. He then takes his anger out on Cloud & Co., but they best him. Taking care of the threat in Sastasha, he then heads back to the tavern and meets some adventurers who are kinda jealous they couldn't join in, but they wish him the best regardless. Baderon is happy that Cloud is alright. He's surprised the Sahagans were actually there, but he's impressed and gives Cloud another job, one for Gridania. He needs to speak to Mother Miyun. After another teleportation, he's in Gridania and meets Mother Miyun, leader of the Adventurers Guild. She's happy to see him because of the trouble they're having. He meets Luin, leader of the God's Quiver, who scouts people to join the armies of Gridania. In the central shroud, there's an underground burial site called Tam Tar Deepcroft. People have seen figures sneaking around there recently, and they might be part of a cult called the Lambs of Dalamud. They worship the moon, believing it would deliver them from devastation. But since it exploded, they believe that the heretics, people not in the cult, came in the way of their deity, and they seek to avenge the moon. Cloud is being sent to figure out what they're up to and if they need to be eliminated. After getting some more adventurers, he heads in. They are indeed up to no good, summoning voice sent to help them in their quest for revenge. After taking down the summoning stones, they eventually get to a mind flayer. He is bested. He makes his way back to Miyun, who thanks him and is happy he made it back safely, which isn't always the case for all adventurers. They look over and see a small group of adventurers, and there's one being talked down to by two others. They lost one of their crew and they blame the mage. This is very common nowadays. She's glad that Cloud is very capable and probably won't lose any friends. There's another task in Ul'dah, so that's where we go. Eoriza's errand boy is always on the case. He meets up with Momodi again. Momodi is happy to see him, and so is Papa Shaw, the one who put in the request. This task will take him to Copperbell Mines, a place we know well, as we helped out the guy get his stone from there. The mines are still closed due to an incident. The incident was that the giants have taken over. They were originally sealed in the mines years ago due to them revolting, trying to escape their lives as slaves. The revolt was shut down by collapsing the mines, but due to increasing need for materials in the region, the miners delved past where they should have and let the giants out. I do like that they don't try to make this seem like they're doing a heroic act with this task. It's questionable you're killing a group of former slaves. Papa Shaw even says so. I can't even blame the current people of Ul'dah, as this was years before these people were even born into this world. Clout can't just let the giants slaughter everyone on the surface though, so he does what he feels he needs to, killing others to protect others. This will come up again later. After joining up with adventurers again, he heads into the mines. After taking on some monsters and blowing up walls, they make it to the end, where they meet a particularly angry giant. Not too much for Cloud & Co. They take him down and the request is complete. After returning, he hears a woman screaming outside. She's being harassed by a group who is accusing her of stealing. She's a refugee of the Calamity, so this situation doesn't seem like it'll go in her favor. The guy threatens to turn her into the brass blades unless she becomes a servant. She calls out for help, and Clout, not questioning anything, jumps in. He fights the bodyguards and takes them down with ease. The woman thanks him, which causes Clout to have another headache. Two citizens are wondering about the refugee situation because even after 5 years, new ones continue to come. Due to failing communities, they come to Ul'dah because it's said to be the most prosperous city-state, but in reality, it isn't really booming. They're concerned they'll turn to crime and the people of Ul'dah will be overrun by them due to militia not being able to take care of all of them. Super fucking racist, huh guys? Like, seriously? We see the woman we saved buying the product she said to have stolen from the merchant. Clout backs up the woman's claim after his vision, and everyone in the street starts to go against the merchant. He has no one on his side, so he runs away in anger. The woman thanks Clout and walks off. He's then approached by Thancred, who says he's been watching the entire time, and for good reason. He compliments Cloud on being an envoy and says he's in awe by him, mostly his selflessness, calling it rare these days. Cloud is the one he's been looking for. He's also interested in the visions he's having, as he knows someone with the same power and thinks he should meet her. He would like to have him join his group, and if he's interested, asks Momodi about the Scions of the Seventh Dawn. He goes to Momodi and she congratulates him on taking care of the request. Before he can ask her about the Scions of the Seventh Dawn though, a woman approaches him. It's the woman from Gridania who was being chastised by her fellow adventurers. She tells Cloud that the one they lost was her fiancé. He was inspired by Cloud after hearing of his adventures, so he became an adventurer. Damn, word travels fast. She has felt like she wanted to give up since his death, but seeing how far Cloud has come, she will keep on pushing, going back home and start training from the beginning. Momodi at first didn't understand why anyone would ever want to be an adventurer, but now she is honored to be a part of all these people's lives. Cloud starts to ask about the Scions after the woman leaves, a group that doesn't do ordinary work, so it might not be safe, but Cloud doesn't care. Understanding this, she tells him he can trust the Scion. Quest is to solve the problems of Eorzea others can't. They're small and recruiting, which is hard considering they're hidden in a place called the Vesper Bay, west of Horizon. He makes his way there and meets Tataru, a young Lalafell woman. He explains he's here on the behest of Thancred, and she welcomes him. The leader is waiting for him, and he should go see her. He enters a small room full of people. The leader greets him and explains who they are. The Scions transcend political boundaries, and they have only one objective: protect Eorzea. The leader, Minfilia, then breaks down what Cloud is dealing with. His power is called the Echo. It transcends the soul. It doesn't allow you to do anything crazy like change the past, but you can witness events as if you were there. It allows you to transcend stuff like language too, so you understand everything anyone is saying. The issue with how great it is that you cannot choose to use it whenever you want. It picks for you. Minfilia herself has the same power, but that's not really important. What's important is the problem they're dealing with right now: the primal threat, and it requires those who can use the Echo to help everyone. She believes it's a gift from the gods and wants to use it for good, asking Cloud if he could join in their ranks. There are benefits to joining. He can hire a retainer and use their code Wild Roses to get stuff. Of course, Cloud's gonna join. Now it's time for some introduction. He is told about the nation called Charlian, a place full of scholars who set up a colony in Eorzea during the 6th Astral Era, until they found out about the Empire's invasion, thus they ran back home. Some stayed behind, however. The ones that did became known as the Archons. The other Scions in this room are Archons. First there is Yida and Papalima. They are in charge of the 12 Woods, Gridania. We are then told that Thancred is also one, and that's pretty cool. He then points us to Y'shtola, protector of Limsa. Last but not least is Urianger. He sees over all within the walls of the Waking Sands. Y'shtola tells us that they lost their leader at the Battle of Carcano, but they never gave up on their objective. After losing their leader, they sought out Minfilia and others like her. Then they established the Scions of the 7th Dawn. Their union will form a brighter day for the realm. Oh, I almost forgot. Tataru. She is the clerk of the Scion. She makes sure everything in the building runs smoothly. After this conversation, Cloud is given his first task. Days ago, a carriage carrying crystals that were meant for mineral reserve was attacked and ransacked. Also, some people have gone missing from the refugee camps. This feels like an attack from the Amalja, who intend to summon their primal Ifrit. Cloud is to go with Thancred so that he can understand how serious the primal threat is. Security has been tighter after the attack, so Thancred thinks that they should solve the abductions instead. The best place to start will be Camp Drybones, since a lot of them have gone missing from there. The leader is Eisenbart. Cloud goes to meet him. They meet up with him and he tells Cloud he isn't actually the leader, but people look up to him, so he is kinda one. Because of that, he'll do all he can to find the missing people. He says the Amalja have been causing harm here for a while, and even though they have immortal flames, there's only so many of them to go around. Also, there have been murders of people trying to visit the graves of the dead. He would like to honor them, but needs to make sure there are no Amalja around so he doesn't get killed. Cloud goes and sees that there are indeed Amalja around and takes them out. He gathers the bodies and returns to Eisenbart. He thanks Cloud and says that the Amalja being there confirms that the ones doing the kidnapping are indeed them. But he thinks there's more to this than meets the eye, as those small groups aren't enough to take this many people. He feels someone in the camp is feeding them to the Amalja, and Cloud needs to investigate. He wants us to go meet a merchant named Ungust, who was born in this camp, so everyone knows him really well. He goes to see him and sees that Ungust is the fucking loser who harassed that woman in Ul'dah. What the fuck? Ungust tells us the people of the camp were already timid, but now even more so. Ungust is right, as the people don't want to share anything with a stranger like Cloud. We go back to Ungust to get his ideas on the situation, and he thinks they are just up and leave instead of being abducted. Eisenbart tells Cloud he should have known not to expect anything from Ungust, but maybe the local clergy knows something, as the people are very religious. They might have told her something. He gets to the church and is told by a man named Marquise to place the body in a nearby grave. He buries the body and then goes inside to see his sister. She sadly knows nothing about the disappearances and wishes Marquise was more helpful. He witnessed some terrible things during the calamity and hasn't been the same since. That's why he prefers to stay with the graves more than he does people. Cloud is told Thancred was also here, but she wasn't pleased with his conduct. Returning with nothing once again, Isambard is a little disappointed. Thankfully, Thancred appears, and he has been doing his own investigation. He believes the locals do know something, but only shared it with the clergy. He goes as far as to accuse the sister in helping with the kidnapping. Isambard is shocked at first. Then he suggests speaking to a boy she's fond of to learn the truth. Cloud goes to a camp called the Golden Bazaar and finds that boy. The boy says that the sister has gone missing. After him telling her that he lost his dead mother's ring, she went to go find it. Cloud goes out and finds her being attacked by the undead. He saves her and she thanks him. He reports to Isambard and he sees this as proof that she is innocent. Thancred probably realized this because that boy was gone and hiding outside of an Amalja camp. He wants Clout, yes, not himself to sneak into the camp, but Clout. You know, Thancred, you could pay me for this at least? God. Clout finds a leaflet which describes some assembly to get work for the poor, but is definitely not by someone from the church with how shit the writing is. Clout takes it to the sister who is resting, and she finds it insulting to the church, so it's definitely not them. Someone stole some clothes a few weeks ago, so whoever did that is probably behind this. We go back to Isambard, who still doesn't think it was anyone in the camp. Thancred suggests he and Clout pretend to be refugees to lure the culprit out. Isambard agrees with it, even if he is a little hesitant, and gives them some clothes. Cloud asks for work from multiple locals after dressing up, but they deny him any work as they don't trust outsiders. Minus one person who suggests he should join the other new ones north at a commune. He and Thancred go to the location, wait out, and sure enough, the man of the hour appears. He says he's a priest here to help out, but Thancred knows he's a fraud. It's Ungust who is the fraud. Ungust starts crying like a little bitch, and he says he's doing it to protect his people. He explains the Amalja were raiding their camps, and to get them to stop, he did whatever he knows best, be a merchant. In exchange for sparing the people of the Golden Bazaar, he would give them crystals. Then they wanted people, so he started dressing up and luring refugees from Camp Drybones and handing them over. Thancred thinks that's not the whole truth, because if it was, he would have got the Immortal Flames. Ungust then admits that he and the Amalja are working together, and they've been paying him good money, and he cannot give this up. He was giving away innocent people to fill his fucking pockets. Disgust. Thancred is mad as hell, but Ungust doesn't care. He can't be blamed for this. It's the world's problems. He promises he wasn't the one who gave away the patrol routes though, but Thancred obviously doesn't fucking believe him and wants to investigate him further. Clout goes back to Minfilia to tell her what happened. After reporting to her, Minfilia sends Clout on a trip to meet her friend Mutamix. Mutamix and friends teach Clout how to make materia and use them to enhance weapons. He returns back to Minfilia and he learns that Thancred has some info from Ungust. He plans to have a meeting with the Amalja, and the Immortal Flames are going to ambush that meeting, capture the Amalja, and save the people that they took. They wanted the Scion's help, so Cloud is going to officially be named a Scion, so that he can go on this quest. Thancred shouldn't be too far behind either. We meet the Flame Sergeant running the mission, and he thanks Clout for coming, giving us information on the mission. All we do is ambush the Amalja. Should be easy peasy. They get to the Invisible City and sit while they wait for them. They arrive and the flames jump out, only for it to be a trap. Ungust had a man in the flames feeding him information. That's how he knew about the patrols, and that's how the Amalja knew we were coming. A battle breaks out, and try as hard as we want, Clout and the boys lose because the Amalja take a hostage. They then knock everyone out and take them to a cave. After they're gathered, they're brought to a ritual site where the Amalja successfully summon Ifrit, their primal. They ask Ifrit to burn the souls of the prisoners and make them part of his religion. Ungust and the Flame, who was betraying us, is also a part of this. Dumbass, what'd you think was gonna happen? Ifrit then burns him with a blue flame, making everyone a mindless robot praising him. Everyone but Clout. He is unaffected for some reason. The Amalja are shocked and realize someone else has already taken Clout's soul. It can't be another primal, however, as Ifrit doesn't smell the taint of one on him. He has to be one of the god's blessed numbers. These people were warned of by the Paragon. He doesn't take this lightly, so he tries to take Clout out. Clout, however, will not go down easy, and neither will the other blessed people that were captured by him. So, they help Clout take out Ifrit. The battle is sick as fuck. I love this music. But it's not a challenge for our heroes. We best Ifrit, and he picks up the red crystal that he leaves after he dies. He sees the symbol again, and another crystal falls into place. Thancred shows up late again, that sexy son of a bitch, and he apologizes that Clout had to go through such trials. Okay, dude, you should have just been here then tell us. As they leave, we see Nero up on the rocks as he's watching them, commenting that the summon was honestly disappointing as the readings he got weren't really that great. He is accompanied by Livia S. Junis, who says they can't expect support from back home in this quest and they're wasting their time. He agrees, but at least they fulfilled their primary objective. He's a little worried about Clout, but Livius tells him to ignore him and focus on the task at hand. We go back to Camp Drybones with Thancred and he tells us the Amalja are gonna lay low. He apologizes again because if he was there, he probably could have saved the others from becoming tempered. Their minds are now lost and all they can think about is worshipping Ifrit. We get back to the Waking Sands and learn because of this, they must be killed. If they're not killed, they'll live their lives gathering crystals to summon him. Crystals are concentrated aether, so having a lot gives them enough energy to summon the primal and let it take form. Once you're tempered, you can't go back. You're completely lost. Thancred then states that all his research has led him to believe that this was all planned out. By who, he has no idea, but it worries him. After he leaves, Minfilia tells Clout his exploits have earned him some fame, and she wants to introduce him to the officers from 3 city-states. These officers are from the Flame, Storm, and Serpent armies, and each wants to recruit him into the Grand Company. Before he picks, Minfilia wants him to hear the addresses from each leader at the ceremony to celebrate the calamity. This actually doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things as far as I know, but they make you choose anyway. She gives us a link pearl so we can communicate across long distances. This is what Thancred had at the start of the game. First stop is in Ul'dah. Our man Raubon makes his speech where they talk about how much money was spent by them and how it allowed them to crush the Imperial Legion. We see the 2 twins from our trip to Ul'dah in the back. One of them talks about how the history that he's going on about is forgetting something important. Raubon continues laminating on the battle and says they should pray for everyone that they lost that day. They did not win the battle at Cartano. They are slowly losing their city. They're divided more than ever, fighting amongst themselves, always being bullied by the Amalja and the Empire. A divided Ul'dah isn't a good Ul'dah. This feels less like a ceremony for the ones who are gone, to be honest. Anyways, Nanamo gives a few words to help encourage people, and then we leave. We run into the twins as we leave, and they introduce themselves as Alphino and Alice, calling themselves the students of history. Alfie, as I will call him now, says that Ul'dah's people do not shy away from conflict. That's why they use force for the Amalja and Ifrit. The Empire, however, is at their doorstep, and they won't do anything. Same for the refugees. They're losing power, and soon they won't even be able to keep Ifrit in check. We think about this as we move on to Lim Solo Minsa. Admiral Meroweb asks everyone here to remember everyone who died in the battle and hope they are resting well at sea, saying it brought everyone together and allowed them to resurrect the Grand Company. Alphanon mentions how the people here love their freedom just as much as beastmen do. Meroweb then brings up the Sahagin, Cobalt, and the Empire threatening them. We should be fighting them, not amongst ourselves. Who does fighting amongst ourselves help? Everyone who isn't with them must unite. A crew without unity is no crew at all, just a mass of drowned men. This one again is more of a call to arms than it is a ceremony of the people they lost. Alfie goes into more detail about the Sahagin and how they pray to Leviathan, while the Cobalt worship Titan. There will probably be a war between both before long. We think about this and make our way to Gridania. In Gridania, we see the elder seer Kane Senna giving a speech herself. She goes into detail about how Gridania was born 5 centuries ago by their long gone Hur and Elzen ancestors who, showing their worth to the elements, allowed them to stay in the forest, creating this community. After this, more races came in and they were able to live in peace and Gridania flourished. Gridania is also divided, and Kane Senna wants to unite them while honoring the dead in doing so. That's a nice thing compared to the other two. Feeling like they just wanted to call to arms. We meet the twins again, and Alfie tells us that Gridania is troubled by 2 beastmen tribes too. The mysterious Sylph, who worship Ramu, and the bird-like Ixal, who worship Garuda. The Ixal are more dangerous as they enjoy war. The Sylphs are more distant lately, which is weird as they usually have been pretty close to Gridania. They summoned Ramu a while ago, which is probably what brought about the change. Gridania wants their relationship to be strong again, so they hope restoring the forest to its former glory, they can reforge the relationship between them. Alfie thinks this will take centuries, and you know what, I kinda agree. After this, we finally get back to the Waking Sand. Cloud is ready to tell Minfilia which company he chooses. Before that, we move to the twins sitting in Ul'dah and eating, discussing their speeches and Clout. Alice is upset that the speeches barely talked about the calamity at all. Alfie isn't surprised by this, saying that remembering that pain won't help anyone at all. These two are clearly divided on how they want to save Eorzea, and it causes a rift between them. She starts bringing up how their grandpa wouldn't entrust the realm to these people who rewrite history. She then leaves, saying she will find another way to save the realm. Alfie tells her while their paths differ, they have the same goal. They both hope they'll see eye to eye soon, and then they go off. We move back to Clout, where he joins the Yellow Serpent since he felt Kane Senna's speech was the one that felt like it honored the fallen while rallying the people to protect their home. Getting to the headquarters, he's about to be added to their ranks, but the conversation with the personal officer is interrupted by the news that an airship was shot down by the Empire. Since they're dealing with the Ixal right now, Clout will need to be the one to help them, so he agrees. He gets there to find one of the crewmen. He's suspicious of Clout at first, but someone from the Ader's Nest comes by to tell him that they're here to help, and Clout is an honored member. After that shuttle, we have a short stake at him, watch the Garleans. Garland saying he probably made the ship, and it seems to me that he's a traitor with how they're talking about him. They plan to take the ship back. The crewman tells us that his friend Wedge is stuck on that ship since he tried to hide in the ship named the Tiny Bronco. I wonder where I've heard that before. Their first ship since Garland disappeared. That's interesting. But there's no time for that as we have to save his friend Wedge. They're quickly dealt with and Wedge is safe. We learn the crewman's name was Biggs. Final Fantasy tradition never dies. With Biggs apologizing and saying he's in our debt, we then leave, going back to Gridania and officially becoming one of the Yellow Serpents, a serpent private 3rd class. He is then told he can get a company chocobo, so he gets a serpent chocobo insurance and gets a chocobo that he names Boko. He rides Boko back to the bay. We then see Biggs and Wedge again. Then Philia tells us that they're gonna join the Scions for a bit. Nice, the homies! It's really so that we can keep their airship expertise in the hands of a neutral party. We then turn our attention to Yida and Papalimo, who were keeping a watch on the behavior of the Sylph. She describes them as floating Gisel greens and are very peaceful, so it gives them an opportunity to learn a bit more about the Beastmen and the Primal connection. In order to have a good conversation, the Scions think Clout is the best for this, as he has the Echo. He agrees and goes with Yida and Papalimo to speak with the head of the Yellow Serpents. He has goals to learn if there's a sliver of a chance they would summon their Primal. We then go to the Hawthorne hut to learn from an owner named Ralph that the best way is to greet them and get on their good side with a dance and a gift. The recommended gift is milk root, which can only be gotten from an Ochu. Clout hunts down one and gets the milk root, then makes his way to Little Solus, where he meets Komuxio, who was an intermediary in the past. At first, Komuxio doesn't trust Clout, but then he does the little dance and gives him the root. He's very pleased with this and promises to take the letter to the Elder. That is until Papalimo and Yida show up, which makes him think we betrayed him since they claim to be from Gridania. He wants nothing to do with Gridania and tells us to leave. This is unusual. They're usually fine with Gridania, so something definitely happened. Clout then tries to get them on his good side again by doing dances for some Sylph. He is then asked by a Gridanian who lives here to slay some beasts, the troubling the Sylph. So of course we are going to help. He returns to Kuximo, who apologizes as he might have been too harsh on Clout. He seems eager to help, so he will allow him to. He wants him to look into some Imperials who are cutting down trees and burning bushes. What the hell? He asks around and he learns that Imperial soldiers are gathering the forest and moving boxes. Clout finds them and proceeds to take them out. Inspecting the crates, he finds goods from the forest. He thinks that a Sylph has been selling information to the Empire, but before getting into that, he wants Clout to find Claxio, as he left all by himself. Clout eventually finds Claxio, and Claxio tells him that he wants to leave because he's tired of how the community relies so much on the people of Gridania, saying they're no better than the ones who summon Ramu. He then finds him again. This time he's with a different colored Sylph. He calls them the Touched Ones, screaming at them to leave. Papalimo shows up with Yida and tells us that these ones are the ones who summon Ramu, and they have become his thrall. They suggest killing them. They fight them to protect Claxio and win. Komuxio shows up and is happy Claxio is safe. Claxio tells the truth that he was scared because he thought the green Sylphs were going to morph into Touched Ones by joining Gridania. He admits that he was actually wrong about this. Back to Little Solus, and Kuximo tells Clout he's the strongest and kindest person he's known. He will take him to see the Elder. However, that'll be hard right now because, well, the Elder is gone. This is the first time he's been gone, but this amount of time isn't normal, so he asks Clout for some help. Clout goes to the Ader's Nest to speak with the leader of the Yellow Serpents, asking him if he could be on the lookout. He agrees, and Clout's next stop is to meet the owner of the place where the Elder was last seen. His name is Buscarone. He tells Clout there have been rumors of a Sylph in the area, but he isn't sure if it was the Elder because they're hard for him to tell apart. Since he has to wait for more info, he asks Clout to help him with some tasks. He breaks up a bar fight and then is asked to go find an old friend of his. He has an earring he needs to give him, so he hands us the earring and we make our way to Limsa for info, which then takes us to the trading post north of Aleport. He delivers the earring, but the good pal wants to get Busca some fire water, so Clout needs to kill some monsters for ingredients. He does just that and finally gets back to Buscarone. While he was away, more Sylphs had been seen in the area, probably looking for the Elder. Instead of Sylphs though, Clout finds some Garleans sneaking around. He kills them, and when going back to Busca, he doesn't think it's a coincidence that they're both here at the same time. They're definitely tracking the Sylphs, but the only way that could happen is if they had help from a trader. Buscarone thinks he knows who it is. There was a guy who used to eat here a lot. He usually got cheap stuff, you know, everyday kind of food. But lately he's gone super expensive. He's not a merchant, so he can't normally get this kind of food. He wants us to confront him. His name is Laurentius. Clout finds him in the act. Laurentius calls his Imperial buds and runs off. Clout kills him swiftly and catches up to him. He says he meant no harm in being a traitor, he just wanted more money. He then says no one can challenge the might of the Garlemald Empire, and we get jumped, but we are joined by Buscarone's friends and we defeat them. Laurentius gives up and promises to go confess his crime. Kinda sudden after all he's gone through to get here, but whatever. Not my problem because the job's done. We go back to Buscarone and we report to him about what happened. He tells us old boy did confess his crimes, and Laurentius did this because he lost his mom at a young age, and it probably played a part in how he ended up as he did. He hopes after this he can become a better man. On to more important news, we find out the Elder might be trapped in a dungeon called the 1,000 Mods of Toto Rock. They were chased by the Empire and end up there, so Clout has to go and save them. The dungeon is definitely a dangerous place. Dark, dank, and crazy monsters. How the Elder got through here, especially when we had to use Magitech mirror cells, I have no idea. But we get some adventurers to go with us, so it's no trouble. After getting to the end, we see a red Asian, and he calls himself a Habrea, servant of the one true God. He mocks our accomplishments as nothing but mere bedtime stories, and soon the world will be dark. But I can't have you talking down on me like that. Come here, bitch, let me at you. Hydaelyn interrupts us and tells us that he's a servant of the dark, and then he mentions that the echo is the only thing standing in the way of total, complete darkness. He casts a spell on one of the spiders here and turns it into a dungeon boss. He leaves and we fight. We cook it up real good and we see the Elder in webbing. They thank us for freeing them and then we get a flashback. The Imperials in a forest are being led by Nero looking for signs of Ramuh. He wants himself to summon Ramuh even if he has to force them. If he can do this, his accomplishments will surpass Lord Van Belzer's ultimate weapon. We get back to that boy Busca after leaving the dungeon and he thanks us for saving the Elder and gives us rose oil to help fix the relationship between Gridania and the Silk. We take it to them, of course. After we deliver it, Phrixio, the Elder, tells us he ended up in that situation by following the Imperials because they were acting suspicious, but they saw him and they ran off, ending up in the dungeon. The Ascians tried to feed him to one of the monsters, but we showed up just in time. So all's well that ends well. Papalymo gets Phrixio the letter from Kane Senna, hoping they don't summon Ramuh. It seems a certain section of Sylph summoned him so they could protect everyone from the Imperials, but they became tempered in the process. The ones who were against it left and found a little solace, to not become tempered. They tell us there is no need to worry about Ramuh. He isn't a cruel primal, and he will only hurt people who step into the Sylph's sacred homeland. The tempered Sylphs have also become overprotective of their home, so everything is fine, pretty much. Mission complete!
All aircraft report.
Those two go back to Kane Senna, and we stay behind and get a crystal from Phrixio that they got from summoning Ramuh. 3 crystals, 3 slots filled, baby. I wonder what will happen when we get all of them. Will we turn Super Saiyan? Cloud arrives back at the Waking Sands to report back to Minfilia. He arrives and sees Alfie speaking to her. He tells her he's leaving again for his own purposes. Most Scions do their own thing, so this is normal. The rest of them congratulate Cloud on his work in Gridania, and they talk about the Sahagins. They don't have enough crystals to summon their deity Leviathan, but they're keeping an eye on him anyway. Same with the Kobolds and Titans. Everyone goes off, but we stay behind to tell Minfilia about La Habrea. She's worried because while they were around before the calamity, the Ascians never moved in the open like that. The conversation is interrupted by a Sylph named Noraxia, who was assigned to join the Scions. Minfilia takes this as great news because we are growing and getting closer to the people of Eorzea. Back to La Habrea, Cloud is told to go investigate him and figure out what his motives are. Since we don't know much about the Ascians, they could very well be the main force hurting Eorzea. The Myrtle Flames have a sighting of a masked man, so we make our way back to the hometown and speak with them. Commander Swift tells us someone stationed in Eastern Highbridge saw a masked man, but he died 2 days ago. But not all is lost, since the High Bridge sees a lot of travelers. It might be someone else who saw them too. Cloud makes his way to the High Bridge and meets Hihibaru, a merchant. Hihibaru heard rumors, but nothing more, so we should ask some others. We don't find out much, just some people saw a masked man in other places in Thanalan. Hihibaru says the bridge isn't doing well because the Beast Tribe keeps raiding and thinks someone behind the scenes is running that show. Later that night, he tells Cloud he saw a masked man by a fire talking with the Kakyuran Beast Tribe, but he didn't hear what they said. He suggests Cloud make a fire signal too to trap the Kakyuran. He does so and a bandit shows up. We were not who he was looking for, so he attacks us. After killing him, we find a prayer scroll and deliver it to Hihibaru. He tells us it is a prayer to the destroyer god Aralga. Despite the name, he is worshipped by the Sylph people of Eorzea. They ruled the place until the wandering tribes arrived and settled. Then they gave the land to the people who walk Eorzea today. In turn, that they are worshipped by the current people of Eorzea. Some places have more ownership of an area than others. In this case, Ralgr watched over Alamigo, which was destroyed and taken by the Empire. Since others don't worship Ralgr, he assumes the bandit was Alamingid. Now, this could mean nothing, but we know that's not how this works. Hihibaru suggests that we go to Little Alamingo to see if we can find anything. He warns that the place is pretty lawless since they are a settlement with no one to govern them. We get to Little Alamigo and meet Hihibaru's daughter. She doesn't know anything really, so we go speak to the leader. He is not fucking with the boy at all though, and says we aren't welcome. Clout then goes to the head of security, who is nice enough to talk to us. He tells us to check with the immortal flame patrol dude, who thankfully has some info for us. He indeed saw a masked man in a robe talking to some of the settlers, but to get more info we need to gain the trust of the people. Minfilia might have some connections, so we go see her. She does know someone who's Alamingan, and we go find him. He says, however, they want nothing to do with him because they think he abandoned them. Great. He does tell us about a woman in Quarry Mill though, who could help us. She then points us to a man named Mithrid. He is captain of the Alamingan resistance, but he has some more running around for us to do. He tells us one of his men are on death's door, and we can't be helped by him unless we help him. He tells us that the Elemental Seers won't help his mans on death's door because the Elemental Seers told the Gridanians not to help them. Clout tries to ask for help, but she doesn't budge. The Alamigans can't receive any of the Woods bounty because of this. We tell him what was said, and he gets good and mad. He's tired of this and wants to leave, but he can't with his men like. He asks Clout to bring him along and a little poem for medicine. This is the best way. So Clout does it, only to find out the guy doesn't have the tools to make it. He then asks us to go find Buscarone, good old Buscarone, to grind the horn into powder. Busca grinds it up and we go back. Well, good thing nothing bad will happen after this. Actually, it will. The guy we're supposed to give it to is gone. So we go on a search. We find a letter that says he left because he felt like he was a burden to the Alamegans. No, buddy, you're a burden to me. We find him in the woods and he's about to be attacked by goblins. Mithrid shows up after and he scolds the man, reminding him that they all land on Alamegan soil or no one does. He thanks Cloud and gives him a letter for the leader stating how goated Cloud is. We get back to the leader, Gundobald, and show him the letter, and he welcomes us with open arms. He knows who we are looking for, and it seems the young Alamegans have been meeting with him. He sends us to speak with them, and they don't like that, giving away that, yeah, they've been talking to him. Being so young and angry at the Empire, Gundobald knows they'll do anything for revenge, even if it's foolish. Clout gets a message from Wildred, a leader among the young ones, to meet up in a small secluded area where no one else will find them, and they'll be alone. That's pretty suspicious, but whatever. We get there and of course, our attack. But since we are the main character, this isn't a problem for us. We make quick work, and Wildred tells us they won't give up their fight no matter what. He thinks we are a part of the Empire. You stupid idiot. We get back to Gundobald and he tells him what happened. He assumes whatever they have planned will hurt more than the Empire that they plan to defeat. During this convo, we're interrupted by a woman who was captured and beaten by former Alamegan Corpse Brigade. Gundobald believes Wildred and the youth will do something stupid in response, so he asks us to get information before it's too late. He learns they plan to raid an Almalja camp to get crystals to summon Ralgr, like a primal. Buddy, what the hell is wrong with you? I mean, there isn't anything saying this is impossible, but they aren't nearly strong enough to raid a freaking Almalja camp. Gundobald comes with Cloud to try and stop them, but it's too late. A lot of them have died. They try to keep the ones left alive. Wildred's dumbass tries to get crystals still, but thankfully Gundobald knocks some sense into him. You wouldn't get the revenge you wanted, you'd only be tempered. Turns out he learned his summoning tech from the masked man. He said if you do it, you can defeat the Empire. Wildred loses his fire, thinking he'll never get Alamingo back, but Gundobald tells him they're more than their homeland. He thanks Cloud and tells him he's always welcome. We return to the sand. Menphilia isn't surprised La Habrea would manipulate youth into summoning a primal. These guys are definitely playing a part in the terrible stuff going on. An individual matching La Habrea was spotted in the 12 woods after some mysterious deaths. Neuraxia tells us a miner named Midred in Felgor Float had a terrible encounter with the masked man, so Cloud makes his way there. We find him crying, claiming he looked death in the face and that he will be coming for him soon. We calm him down, and then when he gets some composure back, he tells us on his way to Fargo Float, he ran into a man in a robe and wearing a mask. Alongside the man was a monster with a single eye, flying, and had sharp teeth. He got closer and saw the masked man with the corpse of a dead woman. He believed they were servants of the underworld who were claiming the woman's soul. Another miner tells Cloud that every victim they've seen recently had faces ripped apart, leading them to assume these are the responsible monsters. The woman miner doesn't think they are, but makes us kill them anyway. What? Okay, we do that and learn we did that for literally no reason, because she had no idea what anything actually looked like. This wasn't a real lead. Okay. She then gives us a better lead that all the victims have been attractive women. This rumor that their anger caused a large local rock to flash and moan. We get tools to blow pieces off the rock, and it turns out it was just lightning crystal, which explains the flash. Okay, this is going nowhere at all. We look at the quest we got from the other miner and claims he saw a giant eyeball, so we go to the location and what we find is a giant scorpion. Turns out we were tricked into finding something that has been bothering people for a long time. Happy to help, but you could just ask. Before Clout leaves in anger after being tricked, one of the guys tells us he actually did see the giant eyeball. So everyone thinks, okay, there might be more than one, and that means more victims. Clout finally finds the damn thing and a victim. He brings the corpse back, and a yellow serpent tells us these attacks have been happening elsewhere too. The creatures are moving bodies for some reason, and all the victims have been young women, like stated earlier. But we find a button engraved with Lily motif, something that was on another victim. Hoping it will help in the investigation, he lets us keep the button. We take it to Mother Megan to see if she knows what it means, but sadly she has no idea. She sends us to someone who might know though, and the woman tells us it was worn by one of the old families of Gridania. We are then directed to a woman in the Lancer Guild who knows many of the people in Gridania. She does know who it belongs to, a man named Urasendo. We find him and he recognizes it as a symbol of the Darten Core family. He knows the person Clout got this off had their faces mutilated. He explains that he was a manservant for the oldest family in Gridania, the Darten Core family, and served Lady Amenden. The calamity changed her, scarred her face, and when they removed the bandages, her face disgusted her so much she hid away. This continued until she started seeing some odd guests, masked men in robes. She believed they would help her get her face back, so she started doing rituals, which got worse as time went on, as obviously they would, killing one of her handmaidens the way she killed all these other women. Yosendo took the body, hid it, and dipped from the mansion, never to speak of it again, until Clout showed up. He now knows that this disease of hers is spreading. He begs Clout to kill her, and Clout does just that. With another group of adventurers, he goes into the giant manor. It's not easy. There's undead monsters everywhere, and after getting the parchment and not knowing where to go next, Cloud gets back to the entrance. They break the barrier, fight an eyeball who warns the lady we are here, and she fights us. We kill her and it's finally over. 2 Asians show up and they turn out to be servants of La Habrea, saying Heidelin has chosen her champion well. But since our goals get in the way of theirs, they can't keep Cloud alive. Well, for now they can, because they only wanted to test our strength today. After this, we go to Ursendel and tell him it's done. He hopes he can find peace, but he's gonna turn himself in because he couldn't stop her. He just kept quiet, letting other people die for his cowardice. We tell Minfilia about our encounter with the Asians, and she realizes this is probably gonna take more than the Scion. We gotta tell every major city-state. After this conversation, Minfilia gathers everyone together. She tells us that the Maelstrom is requesting our assistance with the Cobalt. They have summoned Titan, and they can't slay him alone. Both Titan and Leviathan have been a problem for Limsa, but back in the day, the leader called upon a group called the Company of Heroes. They have, however, disbanded since the Calamity. Because of this, we have no idea how they put away Titan. So, Cloud and Y'shtola have to go and find out by talking to each member. First, we go to the Maelstrom Grand Company and talk to the commander. She says that the Cobalts were moving aggressively not too long ago in search of crystal. Mero comes to tell us about what Minfilia and Y'shtola were talking about, but goes into more detail as to why. So, a while ago, the Beast Tribe and Limsa had a pact not to intrude on each other's territory and there would be no problems. Limsa, however, broke that pact. Y'shtola gets very mad about this point specifically. Meroweb concedes that point, but it matters not right now, as people are in danger, so something needs to be done. She sends Clout to Lower Limsa to meet a former member of the Company of Heroes who works as a miller. The merc's name is Tarchacombe. He's kind of a weird one. He doesn't really look like a mercenary. He also keeps saying he beat Titus. He gets upset that we don't really believe him. I mean, how could you beat Titus, dude? Come on. And now he won't tell us anything about how to kill Titan until we do some stupid chores. He wants us to kill some rats and a monster named Gaboy. After this, he is still not satisfied. He's about to ask us to do more, but his boss shows up. Thank God, this shithead needs to leave. He's asked by his boss if he killed the monster, and he takes credit. Thankfully, his boss is smart and realizes that it was us. Well, not fully. He wants to be sure, so he asks us to do a competition. We gotta do a boulder smashing contest. For some reason, Cloud has the bigger one, but it's not really an issue. Tarchacombe tries to sabotage us because he's a little shithead who doesn't know what he's doing, but it doesn't matter. Cloud wins, and after this, his boss realizes that he's a cheater. He admits to us that he was never in the Company of Heroes, so he did all this for literally no reason. Well, not entirely. We learn he did it because in Costa del Sol there was a marauder who was a captain of the Company of Heroes and he wanted to be just like him. So we head there. We meet up with Y'shtola and talk to Captain Whisket. This guy isn't impressive our exploits so far. We slayed Ifrit, saved Yellow of the Sylphs, and we destroyed a power for which you could transform our entire manor into a house of the dead, but we aren't good enough to fight another primal? He asked us to gather food for a feast to prove ourselves? A feast? Okay, I'm just gonna break this down. All the people in this quest are broke-ass has-been all-talk losers. They don't even matter in the story minus one of them. They are inside in job quests, but not everyone is gonna do those. This quest is the most padding I have seen ever done in a Final Fantasy game. And this is after they cut it down. Oh, this is so bad and boring. So bad and boring. I am not gonna talk about this. No. We are skipping to the end of this shit. Do not ask about Titan Quest. This is definitely not because I lost the footage or anything. No, it's just bad. Okay, so we get back, give this bozo his one, and talk to the girlfriend, Y'shtola. She is just as upset as I am, because they made Cloud go out of his way to get stuff for his celebration, and do it while Titan is threatening the entire region. They didn't tell us this was a test to see if we can face Titan. Ooh! What the hell does finding keys in a dungeon have to do with a primal? Fuck you. Y'shtola sarcastically calls it a time well spent. They say we are worried of the fight now and the feast commences. They wish us good luck, and Y'shtola says this was just a banquet for them as much as it was you. More so for them. Cloud agrees, but we can't linger on this any longer, so let's go get the information from Whisket. He tells us to go to Upser Limsa to meet Rayol. After setting signals to let him know we are here, he meets us. He explained the Kobolds are digging new tunnels throughout the mountain, which means they're probably traps. However, their mines work like cities, so they might have aether sites. Normally they need to attune with them to use them, but they have Charlian scholars to assist them, so they can just teleport straight to the sink. Y'shtola might be able to do it for us, since she herself is a Charlian scholar. We make it over there and she can indeed do it. However, she can't join us because she has to maintain a connection with the aether site to let us in and out. So Cloud calls out some pals to help him go fight Titan. They arrive and find a group of kobolds, telling Cloud that the Overdwellers must pay for going against the pack, and Titan will judge the big boy, Lloyd Craigs himself, comes out and says that the Overdwellers covet the blessing of the land and slaughter his children by the score, in service of greed. You know, I think he's kind of justified. He also knows that we killed Ifrit, but he isn't impressed. The rampage begins. He isn't too much trouble for Cloud and Co, but he isn't easy peasy either. Takes some getting down and figuring the foe out, but we take him down. Without their god, the kobolds flee. Cloud gets another crystal. That is 4 out of 6, baby. So close. The camera pans to Nero, who was once again watching over our fight against the Primal. The reading he got from here is far better than what he got from Ifrit. He says the weapon he's making would have finished Titan in a blink of an eye, and soon he can subjugate all of Eorzea. Oh hey, Lalabrea, what do you do? I think they are working together. He says this power is so great and strong that has never been realized before. The guy with Nero, Arvinia, doesn't think this will change the tide of war. He gets a little upset and walks off. Before we go, Lahabrea looks at us very happy we got another crystal. I really do wonder why. So does Yustola. Wait, I thought you need to stay behind or we can get out. Well, whatever. She takes us out and we return to Limsa. The commander of the Maelstrom thanks us for our job. We say goodbye and head back to the Waking Sands. Oh boy, I can't wait to see Menphilia. And what happened here? There are bodies everywhere, and Menphilia is nowhere to be found. I didn't know everyone here, but damn, they ain't have to go out like this, man. Noraxi is here, but he is dying. He gives us a flashback. The Waking Sands are attacked by the Imperial General, Livia, and her men. She is looking for Cloud. Since he isn't here though, she kills most of the people, minus a few like Tataru and Menphilia. The other major scions are out, so they aren't killed or captured. Before Noraxia dies, he tells us to find shelter at the Church of Camp Drybones. We go to that church and tell Illud what has transpired. Priest Illud has known Menphilia since he was a child, so he will take us in and help in any way he can. If we need anything, we can also talk to Marquise, the guy who didn't like talking to people earlier in the game. He is a survivor from the Calamity who suffered from mental trauma. Clout talks to him and they introduce themselves to each other. After this, he mentions he found a broken clock on a man that he sort of recognizes, but he can't place his finger on it. He asks Clout to get some tools for him so he can tinker with it. He's supposed to help us, not the other way around. But this game isn't built like that, so we go get the tools for him, and he fixes it. He didn't remember anything, but he wonders why the heck he can remember fixing this with little to no problems. We take it to the sister in charge of burials, and she says she's never seen such a device. It's not from this land, so it might belong to a Garlean. How did Marquise end up with it then? And if it's familiar to him and needs for him to fix, well, we gotta go help bury the dead, so we'll worry about Marquise later. We help them get on the carriage that will take them to the church. So many lives were lost, how many didn't have to be? After this grim task, we go back to the church. The sister tells us we can't bury Noraxi here. They must be taken to the Sylphs. We carry the dead body of theirs to the little Solus. After handing him over to the Sylphs, they vow to help Eorzea with defeating the Empire, so nothing like this will ever happen again. We say our goodbyes and get back to the church where Marquise says that someone is spying on him. We go outside and find that, yeah, someone is spying on him. Clout beats the shit out of him and turns out they were an Imperial. Man, something is up. Everything connects Marquise to the Empire. Before we can figure out what he is, Alfie shows up out of nowhere to say, hey, yo! He wants to revive the Scions, and to do that he needs help of Sid Garland. That is Marquise's true name. He is the greatest inventor of our time. Marquise is overcome with thoughts and realizes that yes, this is true. The priest gets his things and thanks him for being there as it felt like he had a son again. Alfie then introduces himself to Sid and reminds everyone of the job of the Scion. To rid Eorzea of the threat of the Primals. Even if there is one Scion left, they must not stop this duty. The Ixal have summoned their Primal Garuda, and she is tormenting the people of Kurthos to the north. She is probably the most hostile Primal out there. Alfie believes if we beat Garuda, we would send a warning to the other beast tribes too. She is however protected by a large Tempest wind, and the only way through it is an airship, Sid's airship. He said doesn't remember having one, but Alfie knows where it might be. It was last seen flying over Gridania. Sid joins the party, and together we shall show the world the Scions are still a force to be reckoned with. Before we leave, Ilbud tells us there is a tale called The Final Flight of the Enterprise. The tale says that the Enterprise flew northwest of Gridania to the icy region of Kurthos. They head to Felguard floats to see if anyone saw the Enterprise land in Kurthos. They are familiar with it and the event, but they don't know what happened with it after it passed into Kurthos. This region isn't governed by the city-states, it is home to the Ishgardians, who are dealing with their own trouble. We get to the settlement of the Astrologians, who should have information on the Enterprise. Maybe if we help them, they'll help us out, but Ishgardians will not help an outsider. Well, one guard might help us after we bother him enough. A knight he sent out on patrol hasn't returned yet. Good for us. Now we can prove that we aren't bad guys. We find him and save him from some unknown bad guys, and the guard thanks us. He says that he will ask the Astrologians to listen to our request, but it is still not guaranteed to happen. Cloud is told that the trouble of the Ishgardians is that they are at war with dragons, and also have a problem with Dravonian sympathizers, the race of the dragon. These people are called heretics because of the religious difference. They were who attacked the knight on the road, so because of the possibility of heretics gaining access to confidential records, they are restricted heavily. The chief really doesn't want us to have access to this, so their holy crusade won't be at risk. An Inquisitor shows up mid-conversation and basically tells us to stay the hell out of Ishgard business. An astrologer named Josiah asks us to go find his friend. He's found trapped and surrounded by Ixal. Instead of being thankful we saved him, this bastard gets mad that he was saved by an outsider. We get back and learn even after saving him, we still can't get access to the record. What does Cloud have to prove that he isn't some type of heretic? He learns that he can ask House Durandal, the house that he's helped out twice now, to speak to other houses and give him a good name. Would be a good alternative, getting comfy with all the houses. We meet Lord Portaline and ask him to introduce us, but since we are able to meet 3 houses, he thinks we should help him one more time. One job for each house. I guess it's a fine deal. There was a robbery on the road close by, and we'd like us to go to the scene of the crime and try to recover what's left. There are heretics at these locations, of course, and Cloud has to take them out and get the stolen goods, which of course he does. We bring them back and one is smashed open. Inside is a draconian rosary, a religious object for the Dravanians. Since it was meant to go to the House Annular, this is very concerning, because in the past they have been rumored to be a house of heretic. Sadly, this is more important than an introduction to the houses, so the airship will be delayed. Cloud is approached by a name like Carleont, who tells us the tales of Lord Farcel being a heretic are a lie. He served with him for years and he knows the Lord well, so this is definitely not possible. He asks him to warn him that the Inquisitors are coming. Cloud is the helper of the innocent, so he takes the request as it would feel wrong to not do the right thing if it is the right thing. We tell Farcel the news and he denies being a heretic, but knows these words won't mean anything to the Inquisitors. As thanks, he gives us a letter to meet Lord Hoshafron of House Fortan, who might have information on the airship. He is located in Camp Dragonhead. When meeting him, he is very welcoming compared to everyone else we met, that this will be hard to find witnesses that saw the Enterprise fall, since they were in a conflict of their very own. Nonetheless, he sent out missives to various people who might be able to help. Still, Cloud should speak to others just in case. He should state that he's a friend of House Fortan to get help too. Sadly, no one has the time to help or have information. This isn't going to help us to get anywhere. So let's go back to House Fortan. When we get there, Hoshafron tells us that Farcel was seen heading north towards the Steel Vigil alongside 3 knights. It was an outpost taken by the Dravonian race. He doesn't really know why they would go there, but Cloud should check it out just in case. Cloud sees them attacked by a Dravanian, so he kills it. After killing it, we find Farcel was trying to prove his devotion to his people, since it was his house that lost the vigil in the first place. Poor guy, going through so much to prove his innocence. Hoshafron is happy that they are alright, and hey, he found a witness for the final flight of the Enterprise. Sadly, the witness thinks Cloud might become a heretic, so we gotta clear Farcel's name first. Time to figure out who set my guy up. First, we speak to a man who works with the Porters in Kurthos. He doesn't think the Porters did it, but they are the most suspicious since only other people could have done it are the Knights. Cloud speaks to the Porters that have arrived to Camp Dragonhead. Cloud calls them out saying they planted the rosaries. The Porter is pissed and allows Cloud to go through his things. We find the rosary. Ha! Caught you red-handed. Oh wait, no, he's confused. He put the boxes on the car himself after it was inspected. If he knew that it was there, he never would have put them on. Hoshafron thinks the culprit did a little too much by putting them on every shipment. He writes a letter to the church and asks Cloud to see an Inquisitor and asks the trial to be delayed. The trial is already going on and they plan to execute this man. Farcel tries his best to tell him that he isn't a heretic, but the Inquisitors won't listen and tell him to walk off the cliff. Cloud and one of Hoshafron's knights tells him there is new evidence, so the trial must be delayed. Guliame, however, says that the personal relationships are getting in the way of his judgment, interfering with his work, which is heresy. His knights attack us and we hold off until Hoshafron and his guys show up as reinforcements. During the battle, a wyvern freaking comes in and makes us a whole lot more trouble. They discover a dragonic rosary on one of the knights and suspect that he summoned the wyvern. Guliame admits there's definitely more going on than he thought and withdraws his charges for now. Now that Farcel is saved, we can get back to the Enterprise. Cloud meets the guy who saw the final flight and he says that he saw a figure coming from Gridania leading to the Stone Vigil in the northwest. It was a military spot owned by the House Alienard, but was also taken over by the Dravanians. They're probably holding the Enterprise for some reason. House Durandal are in charge of reclaiming it, so we need their permission. Hoshafron plans to write a letter to House Durandir, and he thinks Farcel also writing one would increase our chances. He agrees to write, but he thinks his word might not mean much. We should also be cautious since whoever set him up might set us up next. We arrive at Durmont and we get to talk to the Lord himself. Oh shit, Alfie and Sid show up. Hey guys. We tell him we need the Enterprise to slay Garuda, so please let us into the Stone Vigil, but Sir Sutsalot, the Inquisitor, shows up and says we aren't to be trusted. House Durmont is setting up a military to take the Vigil, so a long-lost engineer and 2 has-beens showing up right now is pretty sus. Durmont agrees with him and we are not able to set foot into the Vigil until Durandal has reclaimed it. They think they might be able to gain their trust if they go around and help the local people with their problem. A chef asks Cloud to get some food for the soldiers so that he can win them over. We get it, give it to Chef Boyardee and the Knights, and everyone is happy, even if it isn't the best. Sid has been helping out the local medical personnel, and he needs our help so he can get more material for the tools he needs to help these people. We kill some ice sprites, get him the cores, and return. Sid shows off the advice and they are people, and the people are happy, but this dude Gilmom shows up again to make us look bad. Watch out for strangers, he says. These people are grown, but they get scared anyway. Now we have lost some of our effort. They do not want us to progress in this game, man. Best course of action is to gain Gilmom's trust too, so Cloud needs to learn about the man. Apparently everyone, and I mean everyone, loves him, and the Inquisitors because they're devoted to his guardians. A knight in the medical building tells Cloud about Gilmom's first day in the fort. He was on patrol and saw a figure outside the gate. He told it to stop and he chased him, but he got injured and went unconscious. He woke up a few days later in the infirmary and was told that he was brought here by the figure who turned out to be Inquisitor Gilmom. We tell this to Alfie and he says some of it is off. For one, the main road in Kurthos leads to the southwestern gate, not the eastern one. Since we've arrived, no one came through the eastern gate, and since the knight said the figure was illuminated by the city of Ishgard, Gilmom came from the east, not the south. There's a massive chasm that way. Cloud retraces the steps of Gilmom and ends up in the chasm. He finds monsters trying to hide something. He sees that at this body of someone who looks just like Gilmom. Probably his twin? There's a document on it, so we head back to give it to Alfie. It is a letter appointing him as Inquisitor, meaning this is his first assignment. We have an imposter among us. Instead of going to Drillmont, we go back to the Knight. Maybe we can jog his memory some more. The Knight doesn't want to talk bad about the guy who saved his life, but gives us the name of someone who was also there. Miss Perlina tells us everything that went down. The Knight who fell unconscious was attacked by a Dravanian, but he did not get randomly injured and fell unconscious. When she rushed in to help, a voice made her stop. It knew everything about her life. She had to keep it a secret to keep both her and the injured one alive. She of course agreed. It was the fake Inquisitor Gilmon who made her do this. She knew about the Rosary too. He was planting them on innocent people in order to condemn them to death. However, when Farcel was targeted, she had to change of heart and planted him on the ship so the truth would be obvious. Clout finds the chest and takes it to Drillmont, and he tells him what he was told. Drillmont believes Clout and apologizes for how they've treated him. We get access to the Vigil, but he wants us to help capture the imposter first. We rush to the fake, and just in time too, because he was about to condemn another innocent person. We stop him and Drillmont calls him a traitor. Faker, saying that he isn't a traitor as he was never allied with Ishgard in the first place. It is the Ishgardians who are the real monsters, hands stained in black blood of people who questioned the Crusade. He will of course not come with us, so we have to fight. He summons dragons and turns himself into one. So this is a Dravanian, huh? Cool. Bad. Very bad. He can't beat us of course because we're the main character. After he loses, he says that he's content because the families of the condemned will never forget him, and he played for their blood with his blood. The body lays there and Drillmont doesn't want to move it. He tells Clout to meet him later so they can discuss the Vigil. He's happy he was wrong about Sid in the silence, but thinks our chances of reclaiming it are low because he doesn't know fully if it's in there. Alfie tells him that we are going to reclaim it no matter what. We can't wait for the takeover. He grants us permission and we make our way to the entrance. Clout gathers some more friends and heads in. The Stone Vigil is a cool dungeon, a trash stronghold now covered from head to toe with Dravanians in different forms. After going through, we make it to the top and find the Enterprise of the Sleeping Dragon. Sid and Alfie plan to sneak past and fire the airship up. While they do that, our good old friend La Habrea appears to mess with their engine. He knows we plan to fight Garuda and he doesn't really like that idea, even though he thinks we can't win. He wakes the dragon so that we have to protect the boys while they try to get the airship up and running. Easy kill for Cloud and the crew. Now that it's dead, we get a crystal. Really? Thought we'd get it from Shiva, but a dragon? We'll take that. 5 of 6, one more to go, baby. Sid gets the Enterprise going. Let's go! Well, not fully, but it's enough to get us to Gridania. His memories aren't fully back, but he does know all his engineering. Now that we're back in Gridania, we can tackle that issue with Garuda. Sid can repair it, but he doesn't think it'll be enough to break through. He does, however, think that using a corrupted crystal might do the trick. These are all over Eorzea, and while they are bad and can affect anything around them, this would be good use as it could change the elements of the wind so Garuda can't control it. Sid might know a guy who can help us. He's in Camp Drybones and he knew a lot about the Aether, specifically in the form of corrupted crystal. Cloud is tasked to find him while Sid and Alfie prepare the ship. So I lost all the footage for this part because of computer problems. Basically, we meet a guy, his students. One student sends us to the wrong place because we didn't know what kind of crystal we needed. The second one is a girl who's trying to get on the aisle, but can't. Turns out the place is haunted, so we go there with a perv Lalafell, fight the siren who is raising the dead and taking hold of sailors. We beat her, get another crystal. We can't use it because it's fire. This game really didn't want you beating it because no real story content after it was done until patches. Sheesh. So then we found another student. He found some ice crystals, but they were eaten by a Spriggan. We kill the Spriggan, get the crystal out of his body, and now we can go back to the stuff that's recorded. So Cloud head back to Sid and Alfie. Repairs are done and we are all set. And we head off. On the way, Sid finally remembers his path. Son of the most famous inventor Garland. His dad became obsessed with Project Meteor, to the point he was ignoring Sid, but when his father wasn't there, guess what? However, he was just like his real father, a man who had his ambitions and goals above all else. So, Sid left to join the cause in Eorzea. He felt the people here were worth saving, so he fought beside them. The Enterprise was made to carry the protectors of Eorzea, us, the Warriors of Light. He apologized for being a burden, even though he really wasn't. Now that we know everything, I think it would be rude to keep Garuda waiting. We finally face off against Garuda, but they notice that there are Cobalt and Amalja captives. After some taunts, we fight her in an awesome fight with a sick-ass boss, blowing up rocks, giant gust of wind. Easily the best primal fight so far. After a little bit more, she goes down. Or so we thought. She's vibing really fucking hard like we did nothing. Turns out she's alive because the Ixal believe in her that much. She attempts to enthrall Cloud, but we got the Echo, so it's not gonna work. Hydaelyn's light causes a crystal pop out of Garuda, and we finally have the full set. We did not get a super form though, so that's kind of disappointing. The Ixal are shaken by this, which might allow us to crush her, but wait, is that Gaius? Buddy, where have you been? He starts going at Garuda, asking her if that's all she's got. So much for the strongest primal. The Ixal don't like this and they charge at him only to get demolished. Garuda doesn't attack us though. She attacks the Amalja and Cobalt until they call on their gods in the process. Nice to see you guys again. Actually, nah, we gotta dip. She did this so she could eat their Aether and make herself strong. Mega strong. Gaius has some other plans though. He brings out his ultimate weapon. The ultimate weapon. It eats Titan and Ifrit with no trouble at all. He goes off on a small tangent explaining that this was a weapon hidden away by the Allegan Empire, a lost civilization. It existed specifically to take out primals. Garuda tries to get away, but she can't. She can't outrun true power. As we escape, Gaius tells us to let everyone know what type of weapon he has. Not even we can stand up against it. Alfie says on one hand now the Beast Tribe won't summon a primal, but on the other hand we have to fight an unstoppable monster. Cloud, Sid, and Alfie make their way back to the Waking Sands. They find Ida inside. She was happy to see we are here. She says Stola was here. She went off to find the others. Alfie believes that Minfilia was taken on Gaius' orders so we can learn about the Echo. We take a break and wait for Stola to get back. During this time, we get a vision from Heidelin warning us to be careful at La Habrea, and that the crystals we picked up will be our salvation. She tells us that as long as she's with us, La Habrea won't really be a problem. That's nice, that's nice. Oh, Stola's back. She found out the Scions are all at the Imperials in the Mordona region. Castrum Sentry is the name. This is going to be a challenge because they are not going to want to let him go for real, for real. This is also the place where the Empire lost to Midgar Sumer, so they probably like, no, bro, we can't take an L here again. We decide that we should ask Lord Portaline for some help. He tells us his scouts did indeed see prisoners being taken to that place. The description of them makes it so that they are indeed our people. We learned that an Imperial warship made its landing in Kurthos and 2 prisoners were seen escape, a Rodigan and a Lalafell, who Sid believes are Biggs and Wedge. We should be able to save them before we get the others. They won't kill Minfilia and them right away because they need info. Cloud is directed to where the airship landed and we see footprints that are indeed in the shape of our escapees. Underneath the stone bridge we find Wedge. He's happy to see us. Big sadly is not here, as he was trying to lead the guards away from Wedge. We tell him about Sid and he's super happy he was found and is okay. We take him to a close by-ish Guardian tower and we go find Big, surrounded by Imperial soldiers. Y'shtola and Ida show up so they can help and we save him. We take him back to the tower and after a reunion with Sid and Wedge, he tells us they were captured alongside everyone else. But later they got separated and held in isolation for weeks before getting a ship heading to Garlemald. They sabotage the ship's controls, allowing them to escape. With everyone here, it's time to formulate a plan to save everyone else. They all head to Revenant's Toll, a settlement in Mordona. Cloud and the gang speak to a man named Sylphborn. We tell him about wanting to get our people out of the base, but it might be difficult. Castrum has been on high alert. Sid thinks we can impersonate the Imperials to get in though. I like it! First we need clothes and a Magitech. Cloud goes to look for Garlemund, a man who hates the Empire so much that he's happy to help. He tells us of a pipe that is connected to the command tower and voices come down there so he's always able to listen to what they're trying to say. Cloud heads there and listens in. The guards talk up a storm, but eventually we get info that we need. Lets us know that they were still there and we can go ahead with the plan. Next is capturing a Magitech. Sid will make a jammer so that they can't tell anyone that their armor has been stolen after we beat the shit out of them. They communicate through electromagnetic waves, which is completely different from how we do. And the way to jam this is through some corrupted crystal that gives us the same wave as the communication. So that'll be easy peasy. Cloud gets reading and then we move on to our next task. We gotta learn their Imperial salute. This man Garlemund wants us to watch them do it, okay? Well, we do that and then we head back to the final task of getting the clothes. Now we could just buy them, but he tells us that if we buy them, someone could tell on us after finding out why we need them. So we gotta go steal some. We kill 3 guards, get 3 outfits, and we go back. We did a little too much damage though, so we need them fixed. Thankfully there's a blacksmith named Eganov that can't be trusted, so he repairs them. After this, it's finally time to get our Magitech. We gotta ambush a patrol while we wear the outfits and use an Imperial smoke signal. We set the trap, it goes off on a hitch, while almost Sid and Cloud have to fight, and in doing so did damage to the Magitech and its faulty serving mechanism. Biggs and Wedge take it in for repairs, and learns that the fragile core which runs the machine has been worn down. To replace it, wants Cloud to go get a Mammoth Heart. It can grant sentience to any automation. So, since that's cool, Cloud goes to Uldal's Goldsmith Guild to get one. Lucky us we don't have to pay since Alfie said his servant is picking it up. Servant? Boy, fuck you. He has been a benefactor to them for years, so they don't want to charge if it helps them out. I'll let it slide then. We get back to Revenant's Toll and slide in the heart. The baby is up and running, minus the serving mechanism. Wedge thinks the old girl is uncomfortable. Oh right, it's alive. I forgot about that completely. During this training, we get attacked by a group of Imperials, and she comes online to help protect us. Good job, Maggie. Now everything is set, and it's time to go save our friends. Before we go, Sid lays out the plan. Cloud, Biggs, and Wedge will go in the base pretending to be Imperials coming back from patrol, while Sid and Alfie make a distraction. Cloud and the boys eventually make it to the base. The scene changes to Livia taunting Minfilia, telling her if you guys give us the Echo and give up, we could have taken care of the primals for you, torturing her until she gets the info. Meanwhile, we talk our way into getting the keys, saying we were told to relocate the prisoner. We get in and a battle commences. We beat them and our gang is free. Tataru, Papalymo, Minfilia, I missed you all. Wait, Thancred is missing. Where did that boy go? Well, standing around here won't get us answers, so we go off. Livia is surrounded by Y'shtola and Ida, who distract her enough so we can escape. The rest of us fight our way out, but eventually they get surrounded on a cliff. Y'shtola shows up to give us a hand, but things still aren't in our favor. Thankfully, Sid shows up in the nick of time and we make our escape. Gaius and La Habrea are down there looking at us. And La Habrea gives us a shocking revelation. He is Thancred. We can't even get our answers to why. We gotta leave while he's laughing at us. On our way out, Alfie gives a speech telling us not to give up, and Minfilia is ready to gather every leader to discuss the threat. Everyone is gathered and we tell them about the Empire threat. Of course they know about it and tried to contact Ishgard, but they never got an answer. Well, onto the meeting. Gaius gave us two options: give in and become part of the Empire, or resist and be destroyed along with the Beastmen. They don't know which way to go, as they don't even know if they have the power to defeat the Garleans. People of Eorzea still haven't recovered from the war 5 years ago, and forcing them into another one could have dire consequences. The Scions show up just in time to try and sway them into battle. Menphelia explains the only time the Primals are summoned is in times of desperation. Nothing would make them more desperate than being wiped out. The best way to do that is peace, and we can't achieve peace with Garlem all around. Join with us and fight to protect the realm. Thankfully it works, and they begin formulating a plan while we go back to the Waking Sand. At the Sands, Menphelia tells us that the Ascians are immortal beings with no form and possess others through dark crystal. So Thancred is not La Habrea, actually. Good. He was able to be possessed because he was overworking himself looking for the Ascians, and made him vulnerable. If we can destroy the crystal on Thancred, La Habrea would have to leave him. Menphelia then talks to us and tells us the people have been looking for a savior. She believes that we are the savior, the new warrior of light sent by Hydaelyn, and we will be the key to winning against the Empire. Later, the Scions gather as they receive the details of the operation, the largest in Eorzea history. Operation Archon. This will require a unified attack on every Imperial base in Eorzea, 2 in Limsa, 2 in Ul'dah, and 1 in Gridania, and 1 in Mordona, the one close to the Scions. The ultimate weapon is in Castrum Meridium near Ul'dah. It'll be the final target that everyone attacks. The operation begins with Cloud and some adventurers taking out a commander in Cape Westwood named Rithian. He's incredibly powerful, so this won't be easy. The Maelstrom will attack the Castrum nearby to block support and supply. The Twin Aether will surround the Castrum, and the Sylph will attack the ones in Gridania, and in Ul'dah the Flames will take down the protection of the Praetorium where Ultima lays. The Twin Aether will do one additional thing, which is block the road between Ul'dah and Gridania so no support can come to the Praetorium. Final phase will have Cloud and the boys taking down Ultima, freeing Eorzea of the Empire forever. It is a crazy plan, but everyone is on our side, and it shouldn't be a big problem. After finishing his stuff with the monks, he heads back to the flame camp next to Vesper Bay. He is told Ruthenian has landed, and it's time to start the operation. He has a good pal adventurer pick him up and take him straight to the operation. 7 others join him and they confront Ruthenian. Ruthenian was the man we saw after fighting Titan. He believes in Gaius' quest and mocks us because of it, asking if we truly have the strength to do this. I'm fucking shaking, dude. I'm shitting my pants. I don't know if we can do this. He's so confident in his abilities that he sends his men off and takes us on himself. Fuck. He gasses up Gaius one more time and takes us on. Oh, he actually wasn't that strong, never mind. Wow, I can't believe someone would pretend to be scared of an upcoming boss and he would be no trouble at all. So, stage 1 is done and we saw everyone he has fallen. Sid tells us to go back to the flame camp and we learn the Maelstrom was also successful. Now we need to make final preparations. We head to Camp Blue Fog in Meridium where the Flames are preparing for their part. Some of them are worried about the upcoming battle, so Cloud goes around calming them down. Now that everything is set, it's finally time to do this. Cloud and his adventurers are tasked to break in and take down the shield protecting Praetorium, while the Flames cause a distraction. We get in, and this place is indeed heavily guarded, but we plow through whatever they throw at us. We meet up with Sid, who tells us that the shield is protected by 3 towers. We make our way to the towers, and thanks to some explosives, we can take them down. Sid is also helping by using Magitech to blow up the walls along the way. We make it to the other tower, and Sid blows it up this time. Sadly, the strike was so powerful, the magic core in the Magitech died, so we have to go on without it. We get to the 3rd tower and are attacked by an assault craft. Finding some mortar cannons to blow that bitch up, it gets destroyed and falls into the last tower. Woo! We did it. But before we can continue, Livia shows up in her majestic white steed. Of course we gotta take her down, so one group goes for the cannons and the others distract her and her men. The Magitech is eventually disabled and Livia has to fight us without it. She goes down pretty quick, surprisingly, but I mean, we are that good. Now for the final phase of the operation, get into Praetorium and destroy Ultima. We get into the Enterprise and make our way into the stronghold, eventually running into Gaius, who tries to convince us to join the Empire, bringing up Sid's past and telling us it's all in the best interest of Eorzea. Sorry man, I don't trust you, and neither does Sid. He gets cranky and leaves, but before that he sends out an Iron Giant. Easy peasy kill. We continue on, but Sid stays behind to monitor us. After going along after doing some stuff with keys and bringing out Maggie, the Magitech, to blow up some doors and enemies, she runs out of power, so once again we have to go on without her. Thank you, Queen, you did well. Oh hey Nero, Sid and him finally get to reunite after so long. Apparently they used to be rivals. He was more talented, but because Sid was the son of Midas, he wasn't paid attention to. He thought that would change after Sid disappeared, but nope, that just made him more famous. Sid became a legend. They even said my man's Nero is walking in the footsteps of Sid. I kinda see why he'd be mad. He wants to prove himself by killing us, but Clout can't let you do that, bro. Obviously we beat the shit out of him, and he leaves before he can die. He laughs because while his fight was not won, it was enough to make a distraction so that the ultimate weapon could be powered up. Well, guess we really gotta do this, huh? Cloud isn't gonna back down now. Gaius shows up once again, and this time ready to fight. He wonders why we cling to the false gods. Even great scholars like Louis Suave did. Well, he thinks it's because the people have no real strength and cling to the gods because of this. We are no different than the Beastmen tribes. For the world of man to mean anything, man must own the world. God, that line is so fucking good, dude. Growing stronger through conflict and conquest. Whoever comes out on top is who dictates the fate of the weak. Very chaos alignment of you guys. He powers up and turns to a fucking Super Saiyan and then takes us on. Tells us our death will prove that he is ready to be the Emperor Garlemald. See, when I first played this, I thought he was the Emperor. I didn't realize until I got here that, oh yeah, he's just leader of this battalion, or this section of the Empire. He does not beat us, of course, so he gets into the ultimate weapon like it's a freaking mecha. What the hell is game of rules? Okay, so this guy is kind of tough. He's eating like everything we throw at him. Heidelin talks to us and says if we want to be victorious, we need to look to the light. Echo penetrates the weakness and we start doing some real damage, beating the essence of the primals he absorbed out of him. It's looking bad for you guys. Good for us until La Habrea shows up. He says Cloud is protected by Heidelin, but there's a chance to overcome that. Instead, ultimately, there's a core that even the scholars of Allegan didn't even know about. Yes, it has a spell that is unparalleled among all. Ultima. That should have been obvious, I guess. You gotta love when Final Fantasy games are using spells as a huge part of their story. So good. La Habrea takes over this operation against Gaius' will, and he unleashes Ultima. Holy shit. Well, I'll let Gaius say it for me.
Such devastation! This was not my intention!
The Praetorium is gone. We are safe because of Heidelin though. She asks us to take down the monster before I can do Ultima again. Of course we do that, and the weapon finally goes down. Gaius goes on a tangent about the cycle of strength or rule, saying we should understand him, but I can't side with you, dude. Sorry. After Gaius is gone, La Habrea shows up to tell us that Heidelin is causing an imbalance in the universe. If she is allowed to continue, everything will be warped beyond recognition. The only way to fix this is to bring back the Ascian God. Only possible by spreading chaos.
Looks like chaos has been waiting for us.
He tries to take us out, and it's a fierce battle. When he is beaten and weak, Heidelin takes us to the Vision Plane and tells us we need to use a Blade of Light to defeat him. The crystals we gathered do just that. This scene is really sick. We break him and the crystal that he was using to control Thancred. The world is saved! Oh no, it's not. Heidelin tells us there are more, and until we defeat them, the world won't know peace. So, okay, cool. We see our friends gathered together, hoping we make it out alive, and thanks to Maggie, we do, alongside Thancred. After that reunion, all three leaders are gathered around and thank us for our contributions, and while it's not over, as long as all the people in the cities work together, we shouldn't have trouble overcoming anything. With this, we can move into the 7th Astral Era, and the realm has officially been reborn. What the hell was that? A dark crystal? What? Another primal? Well, looks like this story's not over. That was loud as fuck. Oh hey, well it's the gathering of the Ascians. Look at these fake ass Organization 13 motherfuckers. La Habrea is there? Well, I guess that blast wasn't enough to kill him. Apparently they're getting closer to something called the Reckoning. This definitely can't be good. Let's go meet Minfilia. She tells us that because of our defeating of the Empire, people have been trying to hire the Scions. Some are more forward than others, even going as far as funding us. Minfilia doesn't really like the job they want us to do, and also wants us to be neutral, but knows the money could aid in the cost, so she's lost at what to do. Everyone gathers, mentions things like the Beast Tribes. They're summoning again, apparently. And that roar didn't belong to any of the main tribes' primals. Oh, it's time for our thank yous. Thancred and Minfilia thank us. It was no problem, my friend. I couldn't let you stay evil like that. Oh yeah, since they're summoning again, we gotta find the primals again, which is, you know, well, alright, that's okay, I guess. But continue on with our thanks. Thancred tells us about how he feels, what he was going through, and how it made him vulnerable. It's okay, bro. We ask everyone their opinion, and they all say what Minfilia does. They don't want to be bought. Alfie, however, has a suggestion. To get out of this situation, we can just leave Ul'dah, abandon the Waking Sands, and go to Revenant Toll and Mordona. No city-states will be able to control them. Minfilia, however, can't do that. And Alfie's words can't sway her, even though he brings up Louis Soir. He knows why she wants to stay, however. Her mother, Lamin, is still missing. She believes if she stays in Ul'dah, she'll learn more of her whereabouts. Apparently, she's been thought dead since the Calamity, but has been spotted in multiple areas recently. Alfie has some leads. So, we go to Denelin and then to Costa del Sol to meet with a guy named Gegurju, who knows me apparently. Huh, I don't remember this guy. Well, he sends us to Wineport where we learn that Lamin is here and she's trying to get ingredients to make perfume. We agree to help her, so she'll return to Minfilia. We finish that and return to Minfilia, and of course, she's super happy she got to see her mother again. Tataru is excited too because she hasn't seen Minfilia like this in years. It's really nice to see. Lamin tells us that she's heard of all her success and is happy she's been able to see her daughter continued on with her and her father's work. We learned that her father was a member of the Alamegan resistance and he died after an accident. Lamin then adopted her. She convinces Minfilia to leave and start over at Revenant's Toll. She says they'll do it together. So, because of this, preparations will begin at once. Minfilia and Alfie are going through all the moving process stuff, so we go rest. After that, Alfie grabs everyone together and tells them about the move, calling the new base the Rising Stone, thought up by the lad Urianger. Minfilia also thinks we should announce ourselves to the world. No more being hidden. Not like we really are right now anyway. Everyone goes off and Tataru starts a little arc where she wants to contribute more to the group. We go to Mordona and give the deed to Stealthblood. We are about to go in, but we get called back to the old home. Tataru tells us we are needing Redania because something is amiss. Benvilio tells us something similar to a primal has been summoned. So not a primal, but similar. Reminds me of when the kids in Little Alamigo tried to summon one of the human guys. Seems someone did something like that. Well, Urianger comes and tells us that it was the Mughals who summoned. Bro, what? The Mughals are off the goop? This is already better than the main game. I freaking love Mughals. Sorry. We go to Gridania and meet with Kane Senna, Raya Senna, and a Mughal named Kuplo Kop. He's told to calm down by them because I can't really tell what he's saying. Eventually, he does give in and gives us the information we need. The Mughal king, Good King Mughal Mog, had returned to Eorzea. He explains that long ago, Mughals served the gods. Until the king told him they gotta go to the realm of men. Everyone came down but him as he stayed behind. Until now, because he's been summoned. He doesn't seem like a bad guy, but he isn't real. He never was. But somehow he was able to be summoned? They summoned him because they were scared, basically. Mughals aren't strong like us, so they felt they needed someone to protect them from the Empire's invasion and the other beastmen. But I understand he's a threat to the life of Eorzeans, so he has to go. After some preparation, Kuplo Kop agrees to take us there, despite knowing he is betraying his fellow Mughal. He doesn't want them to go down the wrong path, poor guy. We go through the forest with his help to make it to the king. With some more adventures, we fight the Mughal guard and eventually the king. Cloud takes his first L here, but his pals finish the job, and King Mughal is dead. We go back to Kane and tell her what happened. Papalymo and Yida notice that this makes no sense, since he's not a real person. The only thing that makes sense that would cause them to summon that would be the Asians. We are thanked and Kane says she would help move everything to Revenant's Toll. Queen. We tell Minfilia about it and she's worried, but she's glad we are now proving more and more how good the Scions are. Now it's time to move out. We will go in small groups to avoid suspicion. Urianger will stay here to study the primals alongside Alise. It has been a while since we saw her, huh? But it's going to be a bit longer before we actually do. Anyway, we talk to Urianger and during the conversation, Minfilia is attacked. During that conversation, Minfilia is attacked. As we check on her, we are hit with the Echo. It shows us that Minfilia encountered a white-robed Asian while we're reminiscing about Louis Soir. He's a big fan of Louis Soir, he claims. He doesn't want to attack us. He also tells us no one but people with the strongest perception or have something like the Echo can see him. So basically it's just me. He tells her La Habrea isn't dead. Like, of course, we knew that they can only be expelled. He proves that he can only be seen by her when Tataru walks in and wonders who she's talking to. The Echo will eventually allow Minfilia to see the Asians differently once she has mastered it, but I don't know what that means. Well, he's going now, saying that what the Echo and they want aren't really that different. Minfilia doesn't like that and she attacks him, but he puts her down. Luckily, Hydaelyn protected her. He wonders if Hydaelyn was the one who protected her from the Andor, aka the 7th Umbral era. We get out of the flashback and she tells us not to be concerned. She then has Urianger and the students of Baldician look into the White Asian. She has us chase after him. We find him leaving and then get on his tail. He has us fight some battle before we get to him. And man, for some reason this feels harder than it should. Probably nothing. Anyway, he thanks us for speaking to him and understands why we could beat La Habrea. He talks down about La Habrea because of how he acted, which isn't how they usually do. But because of what he did, they were able to find out that Clout was so strong with the gift that he could cast them out. Apparently, Hydaelyn is getting weaker, and the world will soon change. We can believe him if we want, he doesn't really care, but he tells us that his name is Elidibus, the emissary of Zodiark. We then return to Minfilia and tell her about the message. As it was, so shall it be again. Weirded out by his disdain for La Habrea, all we really got was his disdain for La Habrea and more questions than answers. So Minfilia tells us about her past. Her father was an Alamigan spy working in the Empire. He got a lot of sensitive info from them about the primals and had us give it to Urianger. After this, finally time to move on to the Rising Stone. We go inside and it looks great. Louis Soir's staff at the head, just like it was before, marks a new beginning for us all, and we plan to strengthen our alliances with the city-states. As we're about to go into more depth about Elidibus, Urianger shows up and says that he hasn't been able to contact the students at all. Well, looks like stuff isn't slowing down anytime soon. Another scene with the Asians have. One named Nabrelus talks to Elidibus, telling him he's uneasy as he doesn't know if his plans are lining up with the others. Elidibus wants to learn why the ones with the Echo are so strong, but Nabrelus couldn't care less. Elidibus then goes on again about Zodiark's plan and all will be revealed soon, yada yada yada. Well, we make our way to go see Fubalupa. Hey man, it's been forever. No time to reminisce though, as crystals have been stolen once again. A guy wheeling a cart wouldn't allow them to check it, and he just burst through. He probably is the one who was stealing those crystals. Thancred shows up and tells us he was checking up the Amalja, and it turns out they have that cart. Oh wait, no, actually it was just a large amount of Somnus. Well, that's fine. I also tell Urianger about the stolen crystals. He will look into them for us, and a woman that he knows will be sent to the Rising Stone. Meanwhile, outside of the Rising Stone, some people from Doma, the city from Final Fantasy VI, get off the ship and ask to speak to the leaders of Eorzea. Back to us, we are hatching a plan. Clout, Thancred, and Y'shtola are gonna go catch those thieves. Yushitolo will meet a Mintoke miner, while Cloud and Thancred will wait out in 2 different areas. Cloud gets attacked by a Ravager, but he beats him. Our plan works as we learn that the thieves turned out to be sea wolves. The Brass Blade had a sea wolf in their ranks, and he was the one helping them get the crystals. Before we can go more into that, we get a call from Alf. He wants us to help him out in Ul'dah. We meet those refugees from Doma. They're hoping to find sanctuary here. Her name is Lady Yugiri. She tells us that the Garleans had power over Doma, but they started fighting over who will be next in line for Emperor. Because of their eternal fighting, Lady Yugiri and Co started an uprising, but were crushed and forced to flee as Doma was destroyed to set an example. Alfie goes to try and get an audience with the leaders while we can supply some beds for them with the help of Ramodi. Alfie returns with news that he got an audience so we can go meet with them. The entire syndicate is here. Yugiri asks for a place of asylum, repeating what she told us to them and try to sway them. She tells Ralban that there are not only 200 people on the ship, but there are other ships as well. They wouldn't stay for free, they would work like anyone else. One of the syndicate, Teleji Adeleji, is all for them staying. However, another one of them, Lolorito, says otherwise. He brings up how they are already full of other refugees and how they are violent monsters. They don't have enough money for everyone. His words are very persuasive as he gets everyone but Teleji to say the Domas aren't allowed in Ul'dah. Fucked up. Nanamo apologizes though, even though she doesn't have to. Teleji apologizes too. Ralban tells us that since there's no real threat to them, Syndicate sees no reason to have unity with other cities or the Sultana, and they have grown defiant, especially Lolorito. But he'll talk to us about it later. He takes us all to the Hall of Flames, and Alfie gets a call from Ophelia. She suggests that the Dominions move to Revenant's Toll. Teleji reluctantly agrees. No bureaucracy to tell you no, and since it's not built out fully yet, they'd be able to earn their keep. She accepts, of course. Ralban will provide some aid too. Momodi will provide care for them until they are fully ready to move out, as they probably are tired from their journey. The only issue is that they have no way to transport all the people to Revenant's Toll. That is until Teleji says he will use his private company to help them move. What a great guy, huh? Wish the others were as good and as generous as him. Alfie sends us as the bodyguard and escort for the people of Doma. We play hide and seek with some kids. The father, Hozan, and the grandfather, Home, wish they had someone like Cloud to help them save Doma. They and their father become big fans of Cloud after he protects their family from monsters. I really enjoyed this part because it really shows the impact that Cloud is having on the world. We get back to Ophelia and she tells us she can't contact the students still. We can worry about that later. You gotta meet the refugees. They get acquainted and are thankful from Ophelia. Well, now that we got that done, let's get back to the crystal. Yushitolo found out that the ones who stole it were the Serpent Ravers, loyal to the Sahagins. They mean to summon Leviathan. There's one more thing. One of the Sahagin elders spoke of gaining eternal life. He got this info from someone calling themselves the Emissary. The Emissary, and you didn't want trouble with us. This isn't helping us at all. Ophelia doesn't believe he can just grant the Echo though, so she plans to go with us. Thancred and Yugiri come along too. We meet up with Merriweb and she tells us about the situation. Cloud will go meet with Commander Falk Brita and get all the information we need. Tells us some of his men haven't returned from their investigation. Turns out that they died. Well, we can't cry over spilled milk right now. We have to hurry back. Merriweb shows up in the operation start. For some reason, this fight is mad hard for Cloud. This whole post has been hard. Wonder why. Wait a minute. I didn't open the samurai chest. Bro, are you serious? No wonder I was getting cooked. Well, anyway, we put on our samurai fit and Cloud looks fantastic. We save Yushitolo, but Serpent Ravers show up to block our way so that they can continue summoning. Thankfully, Thancred and Yugiri are here, so we don't got that much trouble. Yo, he has some really good moves. We can't watch him go out though, so we had to let him go. Stopped again? Well, Merriweb is here, and she's good with that tool, boy, so it's no issue. The Sahagin priest begins to summon, and Merriweb kills him, but since he has the power of the Echo, he moves into another body and continues. He's successful and Leviathan appears. Majestically. Leviathan absorbs the priest, saying that he should have been eternal. After eating him, Leviathan goes out to the sea and destroys some ships. Merriweb realizes his plans to use Tidal Wave. It'll morph the land and give Sahagin more spawning grounds, while also turning the people into his followers. We gotta stop him. We go back to the city and Marshal Enzer has a plan. Utilizing corrupted crystals to make a barrier and limiting the ability to use water, strapping 2 small ships together and a vessel that will carry a machine powered by a crystal onto Leviathan, allowing us to fight it. We go pick up some storm privates from being used and we get ready to fight Leviathan. We get out to sea and Anzar's plan goes off without a hitch. Cloud and some adventurers beat Leviathan. Limsa is safe. Merriweb thanks us and she will provide provisions for the refugees. Yugiri says she will teach others her way of combat. However, there's a secret society that already knows this type of combat. Oh, I wonder if I should do that one. Everyone goes off. Later we see a private meeting between Yushitolo and Merriweb. She finally gets to spill her heart out about how Limsa is the reason the summons are happening in the first place. These tribes only want to protect themselves. Merriweb says that they have as much right to live as they do, so there's nothing that can be done. Yushitolo doesn't think this is the way to go about it though. After this, we get Yugiri acquainted with the Ninja Guild, where she will stay for a bit. Back at the Stones, Ophelia believes that she has found a way to kill an Asian in a similar way to how the Sahagin priest died. Urianger will help us out. She just has to go and call him. Oh, he's here. He, however, doesn't have good news. The Isle of Val that held the students is gone. A magic similar to Ultima took them out. A steamward Teleji stays behind in the meeting room after a meeting. A manservant comes up to him talking about a revolution. This cannot be good, bros. Not at all. Refugees from Ula show up begging us to give them shelter. But if we do that, more will follow, and there aren't enough resources in Revenant's Toll yet. They tell us what they went through in Ul'dah, which makes it hard to push them away. I hate doing this. Things get worse when Tataru tells us Alfie has been hurt in a riot from refugees. Of course we believe they were provoked. We rush to Alfie and it turns out he's just fine. Alfie is investigating this riot and wants our help. After learning that some had weapons and we do some more investigating, we learn this is obviously a setup. We eventually find a merchant who has been doing a bunch of sketchy stuff, like getting little girl's family to go missing. He promises to tell us everything if we protect him, but he gets killed before we can even make that promise. That was nuts. Cloud and Alfie get a meeting with Nanmo and Raban to try and make sense of all this. It's probably Telegi's doing. See, he's trying to get the Syndicate to sign the Cartano Reclamation Bill, which will allow refugees to set up settlement away from Ul'dah. Sounds nice, but not really. The flats were destroyed by the calamity, and Allegan ruins came out in its place. Because of this, 3 nations hold military power there, and the tension is high. If it goes through, there will be a political problem, and Telegi would have power over the area. He wants what piece of Allegan tech is lying there, the Omega one. It has the power to kill Bahamut. This will make him the strongest person in Eorzea. After that, Alfie takes the girl to Besra Bay by helping her look for her parents, while we get a call ahead to the Swellswood. Ramu is awake, and Yuta tells us that she knew this was going to happen as they were worried about the castrable Orients, alongside refugees going to Gridania. Why she probably wouldn't tell us earlier, I don't know. Kane-san wants us to negotiate with him, and of course we'll do that. You're the day 2 homie. We meet with Ramu and we try to have a nice chat. He's insulted because man, the people who are pure evil in his eyes would ask for peace between everyone, but he sees that we have the crystal that he gave to the Sylphs in our hand. He decides to put Cloud on trial. If he has that crystal, he must be a hero to all, not just man. I fucking love these patches, man. The story stuff hits a lot differently than Base of Realm Reborn. So we fight Ramu in this trial and right all that man has done in his eyes. It's a sick boss fight like all the other patches bosses are, and of course there's a banger song. After the trial, Urianger tells us our fight gave him an idea, one that could help him best the Ascian. We get back to the stones and Urianger tells us his plan. Then Vilya goes into detail of what happened when you die. You go to the Aether Realm. Eventually your Aether will give rise to new life, the cycle of death, birth, and rebirth. The summons and Ascians do not follow this cycle. The summons are, as we know, just Aether given form. Ascians, or the Immortals, all end up in the space between because they are not either, waiting for a physical body to possess. If they can trap an Ascian in something similar to a Leviathan Aether Sahagan, we can kill them. So, Urianger will go to the sages of Sarlian to try and figure out a way. We then get a scene where the Ascians are in a room that looks like the Organization 13 one. This is so good, man, because it's just like, it's literally just the Organization 13 room. They talk about us being the primals and their god gaining power, while Heidelin gets weaker, despite how strong we are. Back to us, Alfie is back telling us that the little girl thanks us. We have a bout with the mask of the Yozan kids from Doma, Henry Boulder, Master Swordsman, and his friend Gold Tint, which everyone enjoys. It's nice to have festivals like these during these trying times. After this, Alfie tells us that he didn't see why he should protect Eorzea when he first arrived, but he understands now. Clout taught him that this land and its people are worth fighting for.
He wants to build a trial company called the Crystal Braves.
To help him with this goal, we go to the city together to gain the approval of each state and gather members for it. Riol, Wildred, and Laurentius join among others. After gathering, we get a scene with Nanamo and Raubong where she breaks down because she has no real power, and even when they know who the traitor is, she has no way to stop it. Cloud has to go pick up a stolen shipment from Ishgard that was on the way to Revenant's Toll. During this, we see Hashiran, who knows about this shipment, as it was his gift to us, as a thanks for having someone between the Empire and Korthos. The people who attacked it are a new group of heretics run by someone named Lady Iceheart. They know nothing about her, but her men are extremely loyal. We tell Hashiran about where we fought and chase heretics to Snowcloak. He says that gives him a good starting point. The Crystal Braves are officially made with Alfie as their commander. A scene where we see the Ascians seemingly controlling the Bishop of Ishgard is shown after. This isn't good at all, man. This setup is crazy. I cannot wait to see what happens with this. We then move to Alfie needing us for a very serious matter. He wants us to do to his second in command, Captain Ilbert. Ilbert tells us someone in the Immortal Flames is a Garlean spy named Ivy, passing information to Garlemald. They've apparently been there for a long time and added members to their cause. We have to do it quickly as the Garlean War of Succession is almost done. Soon, they will march upon Eorzea once again. With no time to waste, we head to Ul'dah. Raban and Ilbert are old friends, so they have a nice reunion and gas me up, talking about the traitor, that this goes as far up as the Syndicate. We return back to Alfie with this info and he tells us that the unit he sent finding the spot, the Ivy Talks, with their contact was taken out. Aliane and a few others escaped, but Raish was captured, so we gotta go save her. Once we do, we report back to Alfie. We then head to Kurthos with him as the Holy See of Ishgard wants to meet both of us, Sir Emmerich. Alfie wants to sway him to join the Eorzea Alliance once again. Close our gates outsiders after the takeover of Alaminga. We head to Camp Dragonhead where we meet Sir Emmerich. He is sexy, boy. Goddamn. Alfie tries his best to win him over, but Sir Emmerich tells him that he knows that the Empire eventually will make their way to Ishgard, but since Gaius is dead, the 4th 15th Legion is probably not moving anytime soon, so it's not really that big a deal, and he has no real power of the government and they have no forces to spare also. So he will not join the alliance. He will, however, keep allowing House Vortantis keep supplying Revenant's toll. He wants us to watch over the corpse of Midgar somewhere, in case he has a chance to revive. We agree. As our conversation ends, a knight rushes in and tells us a caravan has been attacked. There was only one survivor, and he only did it by pretending that he was dead. We find out that the heretics and Iceheart intend to summon Shiva. Shiva was the patron saint of the heretics, a traitor who lived with the dragon. Drillmont lets us know that heretics are moving through multiple tunnels underground. We then follow heretics to find out where one of them are, then fight a bunch of heretics outside of one of these tunnels. They drop a parchment which has all the routes that the Ishgard Knights take at Stormcloak. They realize an attack on Stormcloak is inevitable. We quickly go to Stormcloak to speak with Alfie, who is attacked by heretics. Yida and the Braves show up to help them. One of the Braves, Yuyase, tells us that there is a system of tunnels that have been blocked, but there's one in particular that looks really important. So Cloud heads into Stormcloak to find it. We see the wolf Fenrir, who we kill, and after he's dead, Lady Iceheart shows up. Or her real name, Yalisei, who claims she will bring an end to the Dragon and Ishgard War, claiming it is for Eorzea and Hydaelyn. Well, we report back to Alfie and Minfilia, who in turn tells us about what she and Urianger learned. A lot of stuff about Shiva is contradictory, so they couldn't find out much other than the heretics' love
and that she laid with the dragon.
A brave then finds some heretics. Clout falls a lead that takes him to some other heretics. We catch them, beat them, and Yugiri arrives. Hello! She and Ilbert tell us that Ivy was getting ship routes to the heretics. We don't know if we will get a lot of info out of him, but any will help. We are then asked to come to Grenania, where all the leaders have gathered. It seems that Garlemald has finally chosen their successor, High Legatus Varus Algilus. He was anti-Meteor Project. He was in favor of the total annexation of Eorzea instead. He will surely move on to Eorzea sooner than later, so the alliance must be made once again. We need to get the Ivy out before it's too late. Ilbar believes that R'alle is the Ivy. She is second in command to Rauan. She is currently in Gridania, when it doesn't make any sense for her to be. We lose her while following, but with the help of a Dome and Ninja, we finally catch her. She agrees to come quietly. Suspicious. Well, we go back to Minfilia and learn that a friend of hers, who is an expert on Aethersight, is on her way, so she can help us find the Aethersight that Iceheart used to teleport away after our battle with Fenrir. We meet up with her. Her name is Monbrita. She is a friend of Urianger, a scholar, and of course, an expert on Aethersight. Her and Yida have a nice reunion. Urianger gets some love also. She was looking into the white Aethersight for us. She tells us it's still possible to connect to the Aether current that Iceheart went into, as long as a little bit of Aether remains outside of it. That Aether then can gather into the white one, alongside the Aether of the Scions. We go to Stormcloak, and with everyone's help, we are able to open a current to where Iceheart is. Now, if we go through here, there is a chance of death. It'll be painless, but that's not helping the situation right now, ma'am. Even if she said that, we gotta take our chances, and thankfully it works. We meet Iceheart in her temple place thingy, and she summons Shiva after telling us she wants to bring everlasting peace. Weird thing about the summoning is that she herself becomes Shiva. We engage with her in battle in one of the most Final Fantasy-ass video game bosses ever done ever. This is incredible, and the way it shifts into phase 2, holy shit, dude. After that wonderful boss, we speak to Iceheart, who surprisingly doesn't die. She goes on about how we are at war, in a war we don't understand. To understand what we are doing, she asks us to seek out the Keeper of the Lake. Then she leaves us some very familiar words. Hear, feel, think. She must possess the Echo too. The Ascians watch from afar, and they weren't too happy with the outcome of the battle. Lahabrea himself will be happy. We then head to Dragonhead to tell Hoshfront and Emmerich about our victory. Emmerich calls for us and thanks us for what we have done, hoping it will change things for the Ishgardian government seeing the threat. He also tells us we don't need to watch over Midgar Samar anymore. But we are interested in Dravanian stuff anyway, so we will. He admits that our agreement was mostly so that we could fight off enemies in the south, as that's why they want Revenant's toll to flourish. Alfie is at first annoyed at the manipulation, but Lucia, the woman next to Emmerich, introduces herself formally and assures that they share the same goal of a united Eorzea. He lets Alfie get information from the merchant they interrogated, and Cloud goes back to the stones. We tell the Scions everything that happened, and while they are very worried about the revelation of a summoning and not becoming tempered or dying from Shiva, the information about Midgar Samar allowed them to learn about the conflict and how it really started. Well, we'll have to worry about that later, as R'alle escapes. She is heading to Castrum Muturum. Ilbar joins us as we catch up to her, and we get into a battle with her and capture her once again. Ilbar gives her a little speech, and we get a scene of Telechi talking to his people about Raubon, and saying he will personally attempt to non him. I don't like the tone of how he said that. We get back to Minfilia and Bombrita. They tell us that it's possible to capture an Ascian soul with the white Aethersight we used to get to Iceheart. It, however, won't last that long. They can kill one when they're trapped in there by shattering it with the Sword of Light, like the one we used against Lahabrea. We also learned that like the Isle that disappeared, a lot of scholars have too. They were all studying their rejoining. To fully know, we need Minfilia's friend Krill to awaken, but she is currently asleep. Moving to a scene with Raubon, he is very down about R'alle being the culprit, and she wasn't just working for the Empire, she was also working for Telechi. Gosh, a triple agent. As Ilbert and Alfie leave, Raubon speaks to the heavens that Telechi and the Monarchs will pay and be brought to justice. Nanamo then gathers Milrib and Kane Senna to discuss a major decision she is making. She will dissolve the syndicate and her title, making Ulda a place truly run by the people. She asks that they help make sure it stays a strong place and whispers to herself, "Sorry, Raubon." Well, it's time for Cloud to go around and kill a bunch of primals. Okay, now that that's over, it's time to move on to peak fiction. Gas, fire, raw. If you don't like those words, click off the video. The Coil of Bahamut. Urianger sends us to meet a scion we have yet to meet. Turns out it is someone we already met. It's Alice. She needs our help as we are the strongest in the land, and of course no one else can help. She tells us that the Battle of Cartano caused some crazy shit to happen to the currents, and below the surface of the caverns, something was created. Gaius knew about these caverns and has had a stronghold that he was trying to hide it and keep people from looking into them. We clear a path for her to get into the stronghold. Inside, Alice tells us about the giant corrupted crystal that Dalamud created. Ancient Alligans created Dalamud to hold Bahamut. Even as it's broken, it still has its defensive systems up. As we progress, we see Bahamut is here. His body is the cavern. How he still has physical form, we don't know. We continue on to learn the truth. Going through this cool ass looking place, some cool puzzles, and monsters from Final Fantasy 13 appear. It's really fucking dope. Twintani attacks us and has a suspicious looking thing around its neck, but that doesn't matter right now. We slay it and then we make our way into the mysterious area. Alice believes this contraption controls the Aether here. She activates it, and the head of Bahamut is revealed. The crystal under it is his heart. She reveals that Bahamut was the primal scream heard on that day. As we are leaving for the day, Alice sees her grandfather, Louis. Oh, he's the guy from the opening. He mouths something but then walks away. Weird. The next day we meet with Urianger. He's happy we could have watched over Alice, who believes that 5 years ago, Bahamut hid himself to regenerate, which is why Cartano is taking a long time to heal. She also believes Louis is alive, but Urianger tells her it's just grief. Well, we'll go to that topic later. Right now, let's just talk about Dalamud and the 3 shards that have hit the earth. Alice doesn't want to involve Alfie in this business and hopes Urianger agrees. Urianger tells us the device surrounding Bahamut are hulks, which have 2 purposes. 1, barely keep him alive, and 2, be binding coils. Alice believes that she found an entrance to the second coil. We go do some talks to the serpent lieutenant named Allier, who helps us run into Alfie. Alfie says he's worried about his sister, and he wants us to watch over her so she can find her true purpose in life. We get to the second coil and see new formations, which Alice believes are the Aether leaking. We get inside and meet Neil Vandarius, who died in 1.0, so this is strange. She doesn't want us to go kill the raid boss, so we do anyway and move on. We get to the place where Neil died in 1.0, and Alice knocks off her helmet, making her transform. Seems that Bahamut took the last of her essence that was passing through the ethereal plane and turned her into his servant. We kill Neil, and in her dying breath she tells Alice that to get the truth, she must continue through this trial. Bahamut then throws a blade of light through her, killing her. We go to another panel where we see Bahamut has gotten closer to a revival, and his wings are now there. Alice turns off the coil, and as we leave, Louis shows up, but this time he's attacking us, warning Alice to stop this quest. He calls her a vermin, other stuff I assume he would never say to her, and its eyes glow red. He is clearly being controlled by Bahamut. She vows to avenge her family as we leave for the day. She asks us to go to the Waking Sands to tell Urianger about what happened. After we do, she arrives and tells us that she can't find an entrance to the final coil. Urianger visits some sites, and he will try to find his own answer. We talk to her assistant, who tells us basically we gotta dig to get on in, but Urianger saves us from that by saying we can travel etherically, just like we did when we saw Iceheart. It might kill us, but we got no other choice. Alfie shows up, and Alice is big and mad. She finds out he helped Urianger. After some arguing, she accepts his help, only if she can make the decision. We make our way down and see what it basically is, a lab of dragons and tubes. We learn that they were here specifically to keep praying for Bahamut so that Alcan Empire could summon him forever. We get to the last panel room where Bahamut is closer to completion. Alice goes to turn it off, but Louis appears. He states that everyone alive is as bad as the Alligans, which is, it might be true for some people, but not us. Have you seen the tube room? Come on, dude. Talks about his rebirth, and Bahamut believes that humans and human-like beings must die for there to be peace. Alfie takes note that Louis has transcended humanity, and he reveals himself to be the Phoenix, temperate and loyal to Bahamut. After we beat it, Bahamut's control over him is gone, asking us to forgive him. What really happened to Bahamut and brought about the end of Calamity. We get a sick-ass CG cutscene where we see him take the power of the Phoenix to rejuvenate Eorzea and kill Bahamut. He bursts through him, sending Aether all over the land, but because of Bahamut's refusal to die, the Aether from Bahamut cannot go into the land as is meant to. Before he dies, he disables the portal, giving us a portal to the final command deck and allows us to say goodbye to him. He tells his grandchildren to fight for the cause they believe in. What a way to go, man. Bahamut tries to take us out, but the twins won't be taken down that easily. They put up a shield and cast Cloud into the heart of Bahamut. There he fights Cloud and his friends, but this is an issue for the Warriors of Light. He screams as he is felled, and Alice is able to disable the final coil. Bahamut is no more. Alfie tells Elisa that he suspected Louis was fate for a while but couldn't confirm it. He apologizes for not saying it earlier in case she wavered. They both agree to leave the Phoenix legend as just that, a legend. After we get to the surface, Elise asks to speak to us one last time. She apologizes our heroics will go untold, but it's fine. She prays to Louisoix, Neil, and the victims of the calamity. She tells us that she's going on a journey and just hopes that one day she can repay Clout for what he's done. With that, she's off. We meet a strange man in Revenant's Toll, and he tells us we can learn about a lost civilization. We just gotta go meet a guy named Rambros. Rambos tells us his team is looking into a crystal tower. He gives us information that the crystal tower was on Earth when Bahamut caused a calamity, like other parts of the Elegant Empire. Oh hey Sid. Sid? How you been, man? You're here for the tower too, huh? They both want to uncover the secrets here so they can hide them away, not allowing them to be used like the ultimate weapon was. We get to the tower and see that it has a set up defensive system that we can't just waltz into. 8 sword statues that pair with each other through elements. We gotta deal with that. The idea to get through is to use the crystals of the same element to break through each barrier. Time for some fetch quests. One of the quests have us run into Biggs, who is trying to purchase the same thing we are. Luckily, we win and ask him where we can get Roar. He tells us Wedge went into looking for a guy who might have it. Wedge is in a spot right now, as he went after thieves who stole the Aether Sand. We save him and get the sand. We then go get more Aether and Element, which a mysterious voice guides us to. We bring back the stuff and Sid makes a claw for each element. We are about to set off when Biggs and Wedge join us. A man named Grahatia shows up too. He is part of Rambros' crew, a student of Baldessian, and turns out he was the voice that was guiding us. He is only supposed to observe, but he can't help but get involved. He decides to call the expedition Noah's, because it's shared by the Allegan Archmages. We approach the gate of the Crystal Tower, Sid in front, and he takes down the first gate. Biggs takes down the second, Gira takes down the third, and we take down the fourth. All barriers down, now we can get in. Sid thinks that since the only warrior here is Clout, that he and the 24 other adventurers should make a path for them. Gira wants to go and get in the action too, but he can't do that right now. Anyway, Cloud and the 24, did I mention 24? Different adventurers make their way through the labyrinth of the ancient, fighting off many of the Elegant Empire. Surprisingly, they are still up and running. One of them is a revolutionary hero, and he looks kinda cool. We get to the end and our friends join up with us. Gira believes that the place is being protected by replicas of Allegan history. Well, we found the entrance, so let's go back to camp. Everyone comes to the conclusion that they can't leave the tower alone anymore. We still don't know how to get into the tower itself. While we try to figure it out, 2 Allegan scholars from the students of Baldessian, Unai and Dona, show up. They apparently will let us get into the tower, so while they are strangers, we need all the help we can get. Graha has a strange headache, but we don't think much of it for now. Back at the entrance where Sid tried everything in his power to open it, Unai and Dona approach the door and open it just like nothing. What the fuck? Oh shit, we've been followed. Is that Nero? I knew that guy that gave us the information was suspicious. Nero said he isn't working with the Empire anymore and claims to be a freelancer of technology. He gives us information as a peace offering. The Allegans loved royalty so much that the doors can only be opened by royal blood. Unai and Doga are royal blood. Well, more so clones of the royal blood. They come clean and tell us about their creation. In the 3rd Astral Era, when the Allegan Empire was weakening, technologists named Amon wanted to revive the power of the Empire. He decided to resurrect the founding ruler Zande and his bloodline, including Unai and Doga. The clone brought power and glory back to the Crystal Towers, but he wanted more power, so he turned to darkness. Controlling darkness needs a lot of power, so that's why Dalamud was sent to space. But he got too much into the tower, and it caused an insane earthquake, the 4th Umbral Calamity. The Crystal Tower was then lost to time. Zande, however, he is very much alive, his clone at least, and his ambition is still burning hot. This is possible because Amon froze time in the tower as it was sinking, so everything is still the same as it was back then. Unai and Doga went to stop Zande before he uses the World of Darkness to destroy everything. We agree to help. After everyone else leaves, Graha asks his siblings about his red eye. Doga tells Graha that his eye, the Allegan eye, is from his father. We start our second ascent of the tower. We fight legends such as Cilia, Gazelle Bolus, and Amon. And at the end is Zande himself. All he wants is for the world's destruction. That simple. But because of this, he has to go. After another sick boss fight with fire and music, the rest join up with us. They're happy with our success. Nero is here too, using a device similar to one he used during the Empire Day. Well, there are 2 choices for dealing with the Crystal Tower. We get its energy production, or seal it off like it was before, minus the underground part. Well, before we can think about that, Unai and Doga gotta get rid of this Void Scent portal. It can only be dealt with royal blood. Zande made a pact with the Void since we're the Void Scent where they could pass through the portal. It can be cancelled by the blood of Zande, so they'll channel their energy into breaking it. As they do, Nero's device goes off and the portal bursts open. We are then surrounded by Void Scent clones of Unai and Doga. Then we get an Echo Vision. Wasn't expecting that. We see Zande with a bunch of clones. He tells his kids he lost the thrill of conquest because no one's scared of him. My bad, OG. No one's scared of him, so he will just kill everyone. Graha also has a headache. Doga and Unai get dragged to the portal and Nero jumps in after them. Not to save them, no, he needs the void power. He can't let this opportunity escape him. Well, he's dumb because it sucks him in too. He and the twins are now gone. The clones drop dead and the portal will close. A voice calls out. The voice belongs to the Cloud of Darkness. She says the Covenant will be honored and her return is imminent. We need to leave and revise the plan. Graha thinks they should use the tower to travel into the world of darkness, where Cloud of Darkness is to save Nero and the twins while also stopping another calamity from happening. We learn from Graha that the crazy earthquake I talked about earlier happened as the result of Xanadu trying to open the void faster because he wanted the voice and to destroy everything fast. He doesn't remember how he learned this. Well, we can worry about that later. Sid had Biggs and Wedge make a machine that could channel energy into the crystal, thus making a new portal. It works! Graha then talks to Clout in private. He tells us about his red eye. I got a red eye too, bro. Don't worry, you're not weird. Oh, it's about his father, saying the truth about us is with the Elegant Empire. He says that he's going to learn more about himself as we go further in, so he has to join in the rift so he might learn the truth. Cloud, of course, can't say no to his new friend and allows him to join in. Battle in the tower is tough. Some more cool bosses like Angra Manu, Five-Headed Dragon, and Cerberus will provide a nice challenge, but aren't too much for the Warriors of Light. The real problem is Cloud of Darkness herself. After a grueling battle, we are successful. She still screams that the Covenant is everlasting, and this defeat doesn't matter. Well, that doesn't matter. We aren't here for you. Nero is covered in darkness, but he is still himself. He got the twins with him. They're fine, but we can't leave it yet as Cloud of Darkness tries to keep us here, telling us that she'll recover over time as already is. Firing a shot at Gira, but he's protected? Turns out he is a royal blood in his red eye, and is proof that he's Allegan. Yo, am I Allegan too? Nah, not really, but he can take full control of the tower. He just needs the blood of the twins, which they gave to him. He now has 2 eyes and has unlocked the power of the Elegant Empire. Une and Doga decide to stay behind to hold back the Covenant in the Cloud of Darkness. As we escape, Nero isn't allowed to leave because he's got darkness all over him. He is now part of the Covenant. The portal can't stay open long because Sid and them have to keep energy going constantly and they're running out. He stays behind and tells us to go, so we do. Thankfully, he is cured, believing the twins were successful, and he rushes as the portal is about to close. Sid reaches his hand out to him. What a good friend. Now kiss. We were successful, everyone is happy, and we thank our friends who stayed behind to destroy the void. Nero leaves and we go back to camp. The next day, we are told that Giratia ordered everyone out of the tower. What are you doing, bro? We rush to see him at the tower's entrance. Tells us he knows how his family came to get the elegant power. It was handed to them by the Princess Selena in the 4th Umbral era. She trusted her blood to his ancestors to protect the world from the tower. Now that he knows this, he takes it upon himself to seal the tower, until the day the world can handle its power. We thank him, say goodbye, and the tower goes to sleep along with Gira. Have a good sleep, my friend. Nero says he has a new path to follow in the Crystal Tower end. We head back to Minfelia and she's worried that there's too much work for the Silence to take on. But this is why the Crystal Bridge were created. Alfie wants to help Uldal's political situation cover, so he shall stay there for the time being. Minfelia also updates us on Umbrita and Rihanna's progress. They're missing the Blade of Light. I doubt that'll take much for them to figure out. She sends us off with Alfie now, which isn't a problem at all. Riol tells us that he tracked down the guy who provided the weapons to the refugees. We meet with Ilbert, who wants us to take down the guys guarding it. We do and find the merchant, but before we can find out anything, he's killed by a crystal brave who was trying to protect Ilbert. There's also only 1 crate. This isn't what Cloud expected when he heard about a weapons deal. Well, some sell swords escape, so Ilbert goes after them, and we take the crate back to Yu Hase. Aliana, like Cloud, questions why there's so little. Yu Hase goes against it, and he makes sense about it by saying Ulan merchants carry a small amount of them. But I doubt Riol is a liar. He wouldn't just say there's a bunch of weapons there and not be any. Yu Hase, Wildred, and Aliana go off to their duties. Riol talks to us in private, saying something is up. He is sure there were more weapons, that there was clearly a Sabbath. We can't fully indulge in that, as Cloud is called to the Rising Stones by Tataru. Lucia is here to tell us that the fear of Midgar Samara waking is getting stronger since the Dragon Star burns insanely bright. She pleads that we check on the Agrius to see if he is alive despite what Urianger says. We do because they're our friends, as we break through the Empire's monsters and some lookalikes who make it to his grave. Turns out he isn't dead at all, and it seems like we woke him up. He's mad about that and tries to take us out. We beat him, of course. Since we bested him, he will listen to us. We try to persuade him to not attack Ish, but his people have heard the song already. So, Ishgard will burn. He knows it wasn't all the people who live in Ishgard, but the sons must pay for the sins of their father. He attacks us, but we are protected by Heidelin. He speaks to Heidelin, and then tells us he won't kill us, then proceeds to take our power of the Echo. We are then disconnected from Heidelin. We will now not be able to use our get out of jail free card like we did before. Oh god. He then forms a covenant with Cloud, and gives us a little dragon that holds a power of his essence. He now knows everything we will do. Cloud tells the Scions about this, and they want us to keep it a secret as we don't want Ishgard to think we betrayed them. After everyone leaves, Cloud tells Minfelia he is not connected to Heidelin anymore. She wonders what this covenant is that he spoke of. After everyone leaves, he comes out and mocks us, saying that we've basically been carried our entire way up to this point. Shut up, dude. Lucia knows now that the Dravanians are coming, and Alfie is worried they won't be able to defend themselves. But we can't interfere unless they ask us, so not much we can do. Mamrita then asks to speak with us as she has made a breakthrough. She made a siphon that can forge a blade of light from anywhere through the power of a corrupted crystal. Alfie suggests Northern Thanalands. It's a good spot to do this since the crystals are of middling size, and there are some leftovers from the 14th Legion, who need to be taken care of anyway. 2 birds with 1 stone is fought by me. Before we go, we say farewell to Falamin, who is going to Uldal of Koltent and Boulder. We go to Ceruleum processing plant and meet with Wildred and Aliane. for the attack on the Garley. Ilbert is here too. I guess we can use the help. This man is getting more suspicious as the days goes on. We beat them and then meet up with Mombrita and help her out. She tells us about her childhood with Louis Soir or Urianger and how they pushed her to come to Eorzea and be a scholar. That's nice. Oh hey, the siphon is successful. And Ascian then shows up to ruin the party. Not Borealis. He realizes that we have lost Hydaelyn's blessing. Now he can gain the staff and become the strongest Ascian. Mombrita realizes he means to take Louis Soir's staff, Tube Samadhi. We hurry back to the stone and see Borealis has already arrived and Menphilia is protecting Tube Samadhi from him. He tells us that without the light on Clout, there is no shield preventing him from coming into the stones. He wants Tube Samadhi because it gathers aether from his surrounding directly, which is why Louis Soir could summon the 12 even without crystals. He plans to summon Lord Zodiac with it. He shoots Mombrita with a dark beam and kidnaps Menphilia. It helps us to save her. We jump in and do battle with him in his realm. Holy shit, this is sick. After he's defeated, he starts forming a new body with the age left there from his old one. He promises to return as soon as he is back to full strength, but Mombrita won't wait for that. Menphilia traps him inside the white crystal, and Clout uses the Tube Samadhi to shoot the crystal, but it's not enough. He is getting stronger. Hydaelyn won't answer, so Mombrita does what she thinks Louis Soir would do. Give all her aether to the blade of light, and dies alongside Borealis. It didn't have to be this way. Damn Hydaelyn, why didn't you answer? Menphilia and Clout tell everyone about Mombrita's death. Urianger is devastated. He tells us when Louis Soir saved the world from Bahamut, Mombrita couldn't understand why Louis Soir would do such a thing. It's revealed that he left her so she could forge her own path. We tell him that she understood him in death and didn't die hating him. Urianger is very happy. He will mourn her by himself in the Waking Sands. We all go to the Raft of Frost to pay respects to her. Midgar Summer comes out to say that the trading of life and death is a fair one, and more bargains will be struck. Menphilia asks Cloud to see her and she pours her heart out to him. She doesn't have anyone else she can do this to. We are her pillar. We then go see Yda, who is down over Mombrita's death. We cheer her up by bringing her a moon daisy from Rowena. Glad we can help. Handling death is difficult and different for everybody. During this, a swarm of dragons move out and make their way towards Ishgard. We meet with Lucia, where she requests help from the Braves in the city-states. For further details, we meet with Airmer. Iceheart has killed guards and broken through the gates of judgment. And she says, the sons must answer for the father, just like Midgar Summer did. This is getting intense. We meet with Emmerich, and he introduces us to Ishgard's Azure Dragon, Sir Estinian. He looks cool as shit. He is their best warrior. He even has the power of the dragon, Eye of Nihog, which the Dravanians and Iceheart want to take back. They want it back because it allows said user to give him the power of the dragon, and he can also listen in on how dragons are speaking. This would weaken Ishgard immensely, so he's begging for our help. At first, Alfie says nah, but then Emmerich is like, bro, if they take Kurthos, and it'll be empty land, bro. The Empire will then claim it, thus letting them have foothold in Eorzea again, bro. You'll be fucked, bro. And Alfie is like, oh, well, you make a good argument, bro. We'll help. Alfie tells Scions about everything, and they agree to join in. As we leave the room, Cloud and Riol notice Ilbert and Yuhase discussing in whispers. When he does himself with Tatara, then we roll, and he tells us Wildred has gone missing. Fuck. I won't assume the worst because, maybe he went off on a scouting thing, but that's not all. The weapons we confiscated went missing the same day that he did. Oh, no. Some believe that he took him, but this is Wildred, bro. He wouldn't do that. But then we are reminded that the Braves are just a bunch of random people put into a group. We aren't a band of brothers or anything. Only money keeps them together. But I still don't think he would do it. And Riol agrees. In fact, before he went missing, he wanted to tell Riol something. He definitely is innocent, but someone else isn't. And I can put my finger on who. With that weighing on Clout, he and Alfie have a meeting with the leaders of Ul'dah. He asks them for reinforcements as this battle will affect everyone. Sadly, they will only allow the Crystal Braves to participate and give a few soldiers. Alfie gets pissed like I've never seen him like this before. They basically talk down to him during this entire thing, and it's hard to watch. They tell Clout to get his boys to help. Ul'dah will give some brass blades, but Nanamo herself during all this is acting really weird. Ralban will have to worry about that later. The Dravanians are at Ishgard's gates. We have to take what we can get and go fight them. Alfie's forces take care of the small fry, and we take care of the army at the gate. They are led by Vishart, one of the greatest warriors in the Dravonian military. Not too much for Cloud and his friends though, as he is defeated. Estinian, however, wants to take out Nidhogg. That'll have to wait till next expansion, my friend. After this, Emmerich thanks us, and Cloud and Alfie go their separate ways. Now, I thought this next part was pretty weirdly placed and felt like it was there to pad it out, but it gives Tatara some screen time, so it's not too bad. There's also another quest that's important to the story, so I'm fine that they mixed them together. We are asked to work with Boulder to protect some snobby arcanists. We get readings we need, which eventually lead us to find Wildred dead. Damn it! How am I gonna break this to his dad? He was murdered in cold blood. Riol was right. Someone is doing something behind the scenes. We'll tell him about it later because right now we have to tell Tataru. Basically, Tataru wants to feel like she can be more useful to the Scions, so she goes to study Arcanism. Cloud is asked by Menphilia to watch over her. We meet with her teacher who believes she's not fit for this at all. Turns out, she's right. She can't control just a little carbuncle. Jeez. Well, her teacher tells her it's fine because you're great at being the schedule number person. Totaro understands that but still wants to show her appreciation, so she goes to kill a water monster. I go to kill a water monster and get some blood pearls for her so she's able to make some lucky charms. They're like the Wayfinders in Kingdom Hearts. They'll help us find our way home to each other, even if we get lost. Okay, now onto the big stuff. We are invited to Uldafer if he's to celebrate victory over the Dravanians. As we leave for the feast, Riol tells us that he is sure some of the Braves are being bought off by Teleji, and Wildred died because he was asking too many questions. I know exactly who he's paying off to, the bastard. We will deal with it after the feast, because right now it's time for celebration. Momodi asks us to come see her before the feast, as she receives a message from Alane. We go to the spot Alane asks to meet us at, but she isn't there. We wait for a while, but she still doesn't arrive. Cloud notices a vial on the ground and he picks it up. Then Laurentius shows up. He tells us he hasn't seen her either and says we should go about our business. After this, we see him calling someone on the phone while Cloud walks away. He never really changed, did he? We see a scene of Nanamo urging herself to go through with the plan first. Momidi then tells us that her handmaiden has requested us to go see Nanamo in her chambers. It's been a while since we talked to her, like 100 hours? 100 hours? God, I'm slow. Anyways, another scene where she thanks her handmaiden for setting everything up. Then we move into a feast where everyone is going about their way and it's awesome even though they didn't do anything, just filling their bellies with another reason to celebrate. We are then escorted to Nanamo's room and we have the chat. She tells us that she is going to abdicate the throne and get rid of the syndicate. She knows this will cause Udo to start over and cause chaos, but she wants a fair government. She knows Raoban will need our help, so she asks us to help him in any way we can. She's happy we agree and drinks to it. This is the event that will change Cloud's life forever. Nanamo starts choking. It's painful to watch and there's nothing Cloud can do, as she holds out her hands and her life leaving her body. Eventually, she dies. What a painful way to go. I hate this scene so much. During this, Emmerich says he will open the gates to Ishgard in hopes that this will bring Eorzur closer to be a fully united realm. Alfie is asked by the Crystal Braves to come with him as something is amiss. Teleji, the son of a bitch, comes in at the perfect time. He sees Nanamo has died and we are the only ones in the room, so he calls us the assassin. Fuck! We were set up. The handmaiden probably had a hand in it too. At the same time, Alfie's betrayed by not just Yu Hase, but the rest of the Crystal Braves too. This is all for the salvation of Eorzur, they say. Did they kill anyone who wasn't with them? Is Aliana and Raish dead too? Then Teleji barges in the room with the knights from Ishgard, who ask Emmerich to go back home as is being attacked. He is hesitant, but he eventually leaves. We then see Thancred surrounded by a bunch of brass blades under the suspicion of the Science community committing espionage. God, this little bastard is moving every way with this chess puzzle of his. Raoban doesn't like Teleji's rudeness and demands him to leave the hall. Teleji talks back and says that the Sultana has been killed. Raoban is shocked. Teleji tells him that Cloud did it, and Ilbard backs him up. Says all the Scions were in on this assassination. The vial Cloud picked up is proof that they need it. Apparently, it's filled with some poison. Fantastic. He then claims we have mind controlled the rest of the leaders of the realm. You know, dude, maybe we are just good people, you know? I hope no one believes this guy. Raoban, bro, please. Oh, he's still in shock. Ilbard tells him he saw the body and Raoban breaks down. Teleji then just drops the fucking act. Starts going on about the syndicate rule Ulda now and starts slandering Nanamo to Raoban's face. He knows the truth, it wasn't us. And he again slandered her name, saying shit like she was an unwilling puppet. Raoban has had enough. He takes out his swords and slices the bastard clean in half. Jesus Christ. Everyone starts running out in a panic, including the Alliance leaders. Then Lolorito shows up. What the hell, you were in this too? He says that Raoban was in league with the Scions, and Raoban lunges at him. But he loses his arm to, of course, Ilbard. Knew you were sus the entire time, man. Whatever happened to you die before you betray your friends? Lolorito says we all committed regicide and we should be taken in. Ilbard admits that he was jealous from the start. He says that Raoban has grown weak due to his love for Nanamo. He then adds more fuel to the fire. Nanamo's poisoning? His idea. Raoban takes up the sword once again and has a battle with Ilbard. He frees us during this and tells us to find the truth. All the Scions escape as he fights Ilbard. We don't get to see this fight. Hope you win, brother. As we escape, we meet up with Thancred. He says there is an escape route in Anonymous room that the Braves and Blades don't know about. A bunch of them head towards us, and to make sure we can escape, Yida and Papalimos stay by to hold them off. No, man, I hate when stories do this. No! We can't do anything but move on. We get a scene with them fighting off the pursuers, and with all their might, they use their attacks to take out the enemy and maybe even themselves. Moving to the rest of us, we make our way through the tunnels, and it turns out it is not so hidden after all, as we are chased by more of them. This time, Thancred and Y'shtola stay behind and hold them off. Man, we're really losing every Scion one by one here. Cloud and Minfilia can't accept this, but they eventually are pushed to. Thancred and Y'shtola are overwhelmed, but they know one way to stop this assault: bring down the tunnel. Thancred holds them off, and Y'shtola casts a spell. It traps them alongside the brass blades. As we escape, Minfilia hears Heidelin's voice, who tells her she must stay behind. You know, you don't have to listen, you can come too. Please? She doesn't listen to us and goes back to where Thancred is, leaving Clout alone. He makes his way to the north end to meet up with Alfie and Lalafell from the Immortal Flames. As we escape on foot, a carriage arrives run by Vernon. Bro, it's been so long since the start of the game. I'm happy it's you. He's here to save us at the request of Alice. Alfie blames himself for everything that just happened. On our way out, the Lalafell reveals who he is, Pippin Tarupin, Vice Marshal of the Immortal Flames and adopted son of Raubon. His plan is to free Raubon as soon as we get far enough from the city. Pippin tries to cheer Alfie up, but it doesn't seem like it's working. Sid then arrives to pick us up after we make our stop, but Pippin will stay behind and try to clear our names. We say goodbye and fly out with Sid. We land in Kurthos and speak to Hoshafront. It seems the assault on Ishgard was true. They won, but there will still be more attacks. We ask him if we can stay in Ishgard, but we are told we have to wait due to what's happening there right now, but we can stay here for the time being. Obviously, Ul'dah won't attack Kurthos, so we're safe here, and we can call this base the Falling Snow. Thank you, Hoshafront. Tataru and Yugiri are already here at Camp Dragonhead. Tataru is happy to see us to the point of tears. According to her, the Crystal Braves tried to attack here, but they are gone. I hope Riolu is okay and he was able to escape. As the conversation goes on, we finally get a face reveal from Yugiri. It shocks Clout. I don't know why, bro. She looks fine as hell to me. Oh, he was shocked by her beauty. Okay. Anyways, the Waking Sands are safe at least and Urianger is still there. The Doman ninjas are looking for the other Scions in case they are alive. Alfie finally has a breakdown. He dreamed big, thinking he could save Eorzea by himself, treating everyone else as a pawn, being so ignorant that he missed what was happening right in front of his eyes. He wanted to save everyone so bad he didn't look at the truth. I don't think that's a bad dream, Alfie, but he admits that his dream was only to feed his vanity. Hoshafront talks to him, asking him if he's going to stay a Broken Blade and not fight back for the comrades he has here and haven't returned, then what's the point? Tataru then says Camp Dragonbone won't serve us that much longer and that we should head to Ishgard. And as long as we fight, hope will never be lost. The words from both of them gets Alfie back on his feet. Our mission is to protect Eorzea. As long as the Scions exist, as long as one Scion exists, this mission will never go undone. We will continue to protect Eorzea as her guardian. Then the credits roll. After the credits, we see Raubon in prison. Sadly, the boy lost. We then move on to the Ascians, who talk down about Nabrialis. They are, however, concerned that it's possible to kill one of them. The plans to move north is now a priority. Urianger then appears with them, saying that he was summoned by Elidibus. Bro, what is going on? The final scene is Clout and Midgursamar at the gate of Ishgard. He tells Clout that all that awaits in Ishgard is delusion, despair, and death. The game ends with these words: to preserve the dawn's light, the heroes journey north. Their hearts, filled with the hope and eyes, face heavensward. That was the story of Final Fantasy XIV. Wow, that was long. I think it might be longer than the 13 video. If you listened to that entire section, thank you. Now it's time to tell you what I think about the story. I love the story of this game. There are issues, like a lot of the missions being a bunch of fetch quests or run to this person, now run to that person to meet a person who moves the story along, at least in the base game. The patches have stuff like the Scholar thing where we fight monsters while surveying the land, or the raids, what you do, and then you have some little sneaking missions, or fighting monsters that you go throughout that have an engaging part of the story throughout the towers. Base has some of this stuff too, but for the most part, quests aren't very engaging leading up to a primal or a dungeon. Obviously, the world is being built throughout this stuff, so it's important, but it's not keeping me entirely. Thankfully, the characters are very likable to make up for this, like the Sylphs, the Scions I love, the Garleans, Biggs and Wedge, etc. Meeting them and seeing them throughout the story was wonderful. Not all these characters are meant to have a character arc start and be completed, because I assume they will be in Heavensward and onward. But the story that is here is one that gives us stuff to make us care about them, and the troubles we go through with them is fantastic. We build a relationship with each Scion personally throughout their missions, and while they aren't with us through the whole thing like in the dungeons or in battles, you still do get close to them. Like the scene with Ishtola being annoyed that the company was using us, and also her want for the killings in Limsa to stop between us and the Beast Tribes. Thancred trying his best to show he's getting over his struggle of overwork and fear that allowed him to be captured in the first place. Yida and Papa Limo, the dynamic duo, they don't really have much until the patches, but I love them all the same. Urianger's relationship with Louis Schwa and Mombrita was super good stuff, and I got really attached even with a few scenes because I could tell their relationship was really real. Minfilia tries her best to be a leader and hide her personal struggles from anyone but the hero, so she won't bring everyone else down. Last but not least, we have the twins. I love the twins so much. Alfie's arrogance slowly building up and crashing down on him that you see in multiple scenes, and he's ignoring the clear signs of betrayal that are in his camp. It was a fantastic build up, and I love writing like that. Elise only got her stuff here in the coil, so if you skip that, you're kind of missing out, but what was there was great. She confronts her grandfather and overcomes this fear she has, finally making up with Alfie alongside that and finding what she truly wants to fight for. The main cast is without a doubt great, but we can't forget the others too. Cid's journey to recover his memories and reunite with his old friends, helping us take down the 14th Legion because of what he believes is his true calling. Loved his dynamic with Nero and how it was expanded on the Crystal Towers. Obviously, the connection between you and a leader depends on where you start, and that's why I felt the connection with Nanamo and Raoban was strong as hell, because I helped them with the little things at the start and made me hate Teleji and Lolorito even more. But I can't forget the dynamics between the Scions and everyone else too. Yida and Papa Lima, little scenes with Kaine-sana, Ishtola and Merowib, Alfie and Thanker with Nanamo and Raoban, and even characters like Hashirvan who helped us get to the Enterprise even if it was against his Guardian code. Emmerich being a good friend even though he was sneaky about using us, and who I assume will get more in 3.0 because of their conflicts. So yeah, the good guys are fantastic. What about the bad guys? The Garlean Empire isn't that much different from a classic Final Fantasy villain, and I love what is there. Guys wanting to become Emperor. Even with the failing of the Meteor Project, he wouldn't give up. He wanted to prove that the false gods were not an answer, and the strong governing the weak was the way to go. And how they went about it writing-wise was really good. Nero wanting to make a name for himself after being caught in Cid's shadow for the longest time was also fantastic.
Livius was okay too. She wasn't very compelling to me. She just felt like she was just a natural torturer woman of the evil side of the Empire, like some other old Final Fantasy games had. And it didn't really do much for me like Gaius and Nero did. And I can't forget the villains of our very own Ul'dah, the Syndicate, Lolorito and Teleji. They were really damn good. I loved their build up, especially when Lolorito hits you from the side and comes at you even thinking about it, but once you think back it makes so much sense.
The Primals and the Beast Tribe were alright. They're interesting lore-wise, but as characters, they're not much, and I don't think they're meant to be. Only Iceheart and Shiva have a character that intrigued me out of that group, because she's connected to Hydaelyn in some way, and Midgar Samar will definitely just learn more about her. The last of this section, the Ascians. They are, right now at least to me, like a very mediocre Organization 13. I'm not attached to them like it was Organization 13, but I enjoyed La Habrea whenever he was on screen. I liked his scripted dialogue and our confrontations were always entertaining. Elidibus has me excited for the future because he so far has shown he's only an emissary, but there has to be more going on with him, and I'm excited to see more of that with 3.0. So yeah, the story is slow. There are parts that I hate like Titan, the pacing for Ul'dah, the MSQ going back and forth like I said, so there's some issues with the pacing. And some of the characters feel like their quests are more side quests than something that leads into the major story. Despite those issues, the lore of the world is unbelievably good. The storytelling is great. They incorporated classic Final Fantasy into it so seamlessly and feels like it came out in that era. The Crystal Tower was integrated really well. You can tell the devs loved old Final Fantasy, especially Final Fantasy 3. They did it so much justice by including every major boss, I'm pretty sure. There are other references too, like they mentioned the live stream at one point. The Coil of Bahamut has a Pulse Armament worker, Krill is mentioned obviously. Doubt it's the one from Final Fantasy 5, but it's nice to have that same name shared with another character in this cast. I know references don't make the story, but I do love that they're here, and it adds to Realm Reborn as a whole. The main story beats, the battles we overcome, the friends we meet, the ones we lost, the betrayal, and the love that was fought for. Just, God, it's so good, man. This story, especially 2.5, will stay with me forever. Fantastic stuff. I really can't get behind the skip to Heavensward talk because if you do, you're doing yourself a disservice. It is worth it to go through this, as the story is really good and the world is built up well. I really do think this is worth checking out. Story section done. Now we're going to move on to other things. Gameplay. When I talk about gameplay, I talk about combat, level design, exploration, all that stuff. It's weird for an MMO though, as systems are ever changing, and for a game like FF14 where you can't possibly know everything gameplay wise at only the first part, I can't go into insane full detail. I will talk about what I can in the context of 2.0, so yeah. In my playthrough, I went with Monk and Samurai. Now Monk has changed by the time this video comes out. I haven't been able to play 6.0, so I can't really speak on those changes, but I'll review what I did. There are multiple classes in Final Fantasy XIV. You get 3 gameplay styles. DPS, which is an attacker, a tank, which is also the attacker, but you take most of the damage by making the monster's aggro focus on you, and a healer who heals, but also attacks. Basically, everyone in 14 is attacking. Some healing classes literally heal while attacking. The only difference really is, from my experience, it seems DPS doesn't have as much pressure on the game as the other classes do. You still have to pay attention though. Now, there is this thing that honestly I'm shocked I heard people don't do. So, you have your hotbar, where you put all your stuff you're going to use. As you scroll over your icons, there's text. This text is called your tooltips. They tell you exactly and I mean exactly what to do. If they combo into another attack, it tells you. If the attack is more effective in a certain position, it tells you. If it's a combo finisher, it tells you. If it has status effects on it, it tells you. I couldn't believe it when I was told that there are a lot of people who don't read these. It's such a good thing in this game and helps me from feeling completely overwhelmed due to performance anxiety, since you have to play with other people sometimes, whereas I probably would otherwise. I ask that everyone watching please read your tooltips. Helps you go a long way and battles don't move too fast to the point you won't be able to read them, which was a worry I had. The combat is very fun. At first it may not seem like much, but when I had positions and AoEs to get rid of groups, single attacks for bosses, and really cool combos, it added a lot for me. Really makes it feel like there's a lot for you to have to do and you have to pay attention to, keeping you engaged. When I was a monk, I had positions, so moving around the enemy into the right one, then executing the attack, gave me the same feeling as when I was playing an action game. Also helped by the game having sick animations, and it definitely feels like the action is always going on. Now, if the effects are too much for you, there is an option to turn off party effects so you can see more of the game. There's definitely more to jobs than just learning cool skills and doing cool things. Most jobs start from a weaker one, monk until level 30. At first, it's a Pulgius until then, and then the way you become a monk isn't through just leveling up your job. No. You do job quests, stories that aren't part of the main one, but help build the world while also making you stronger. Some of these characters can even show up in the main story, like the Company of Heroes was in one of mine. I didn't see many story characters in my samurai one yet, as I just started it, but I really liked that the stories they had, and it made becoming a monk and a samurai more fun. I can't wait to see what Dragoon and Ninja have in store, as those are my next classes. You even get some awesome job exclusive equipment from them. One thing I don't recommend is over leveling too much. If you're like me and mostly playing by level, the game will lock you to certain levels during story sections. So sometimes you get a combo you want to use, and because it's too high of a level, you can't. Had that happen to me a few times. Okay, so Monk I told you about. The fist buffs, they're gone now, so I don't really think that matters anymore. But Samurai, so far as I know, hasn't really lost anything, so I'll tell you about Samurai. Where I'm at, level 50, you have combos. These combos fill up the Sen gauge. The gauge has 3 slots. You finish a combo with a Setsu, Getsu, or Ka skill to fill the respective slot. Depending on how many you have filled, you get 1 skill as a finisher. Higanbana, a single target slash, Tenka Goken, an AoE skill, Midare Setsu Gekka, a single target powerful skill. The combo even gives buffs, so even if you aren't going for a specific skill, I think it's a good idea to take advantage of those buffs that come with the combo. You even get skills that let you ignore the combo requirements unless you just build up the Sen gauge quickly. I can't tell you about other classes as I don't know much about them, like I said earlier, so that's all I can give you. I can tell you about fights in general. So in A Realm Reborn, the combat isn't really hard to follow. You gotta watch out for attacks that show up on the yellow, as they're usually AoE skills or single target lines, and then right above the monster or boss's HP bar, you'll get a timer counting down to when it will go off. Not too hard to get down, and of course, not every attack is avoidable, just like any other MMO, I assume. They have auto attacks that will do damage to you anyway, so if you're in a fight that seems a little hard, make sure to watch your health, as even those attacks without a telegraph can kill. Some bosses have mechanics that aren't just a yellow bar. Like a boss I fought in a dungeon side quest for EXP once had a mechanic where he would cast Doom, and to get it off you need to stand on a healing circle. Or how Siva summons some dudes and after you beat him, she does an unavoidable Diamond Tusk attack that moves you into phase 2. There's a mechanic called Leave Quest also, that you do for your Grand Company. I really didn't do this and I didn't want to, so I'm just gonna skip it. I'm not an MMO guy, I'm here for the fight, story, and raids and Final Fantasy references, but leaves do unlock stuff later in the game, so maybe you want to do those if you're really into it. The character creator isn't really much to talk about, but I'll go over it anyway. The races are the Hyur, the humans, the Lalafell, the Mintoku, which I picked, the Rogadin, Elizin, Aurora, which were introduced in 3.0, the Viera, which were introduced in 5.0, only as females since in FF12. All we saw were females. Males were mentioned, but they were mentioned as being hunters who looked far away from the females. We finally got males in 6.0, and that's what I switched to because they're raw, sexy, and cute, just like me. Last but not least, we have Hrothgar, who are based on the Ronso from Final Fantasy X. You can customize your character a lot, and I've seen some really neat designs. I think it's a great creator, but I'm not an MMO guy, so don't know if it's less options than the usual one. Next is level design. Now again, I'm not an MMO guy, so I don't know how it is in the context of that, but in the context of Final Fantasy, it's definitely one of my favorite worlds. There's always something going on. You have people running around fighting fates, monsters living in their environments, neat catacombs, dungeons, mazes that you can get lost in very easily, in multiple different biomes. Final Fantasy XIV's world is built wonderfully, and I'm excited to see where we go in 3.0. The dungeons themselves are probably some of the coolest in the franchise. There's a lot of puzzles to do, and they're really easy to understand. Walking through them and seeing different monsters that live there is very exciting. It's like discovering a new thing. Sometimes you'll get a puzzle that require you to be in certain groups to do certain things in certain areas, but it's fine. I really thought that was a neat part of the Crystal Tower. Sometimes the dungeon mechanics can be confusing, but at least it's hard to get lost. There are hallways with some branching paths minus some stuff like the mansion. Some might not like that, but I thought it was fine. The game is very fun. I really enjoy what's here, and I'm positive it will get crazier, more fun as I go on. What's in A Realm Reborn is awesome, and I applaud the devs on making it so I actually enjoy it on row. So, side content. Like I said earlier, there are leave quests for the Grand Company, but I didn't bother with them. There's a lot to do in this game though. I haven't even touched on some of it. There are boss refights with the even harder versions of them called the Extreme and Ultimate and Savage versions. Still gotta do the Shiva one. There's also the Golden Saucer, which I haven't tried yet as of this video, but you'll probably see me doing it if I actually do check it out within that time. It has triple tried from Final Fantasy VIII for one thing, so I absolutely have to go. I heard it's got a ton of fun stuff, so I'm very excited to see. There's also normal side quests, a lot of typical fetch, fight this monster, without much story to them. However, there are side quests with their own stories in them, like the Hillbird related one, which I haven't done yet. I did a Odin related one, which is really cool, and you'll know they have a story if they have some pictures on them, but for some reason, some of them that don't also have pictures, so it's kind of hard to tell. There's one that you can do where you can fight all the Crystal Tower bosses again, and it's really cool. So yeah, a lot of stuff to do outside of the MFQ, and I probably forgot to mention some or haven't seen some yet. Presentation of this game is obviously not the graphical prowess of the usual Square games. 1.0 was, but that was at the cost of the game hurting your computers. But god, this game looked insane at the time. Like, look at these cutscenes, man. As I said in the development history, 2.0 uses a Luminous engine that is customized to benefit this game. The game still looks great even if it's not causing your PC to take a shit when loading in Leviathan. Has nice textures, some really pretty lighting, the insides of the buildings are really nicely detailed, and each zone has its own identity. The mocap for the most part is gone, I think, but they still have some good animation and cutscenes, and eventually they get super good as the game goes on. They have some really good expressions and details on the faces, like Minfilia did when she is disturbed. I really like that one. You can see how much care went into this from the art side of the team. Akihiko Yoshida and the rest of the art team went above and beyond. Something I meant to mention in the last few reviews, even after adding them to the damn script, was the UI. I played on PC, so I don't know how it is on PlayStation, but I think the UI here is good. Not great. It's really nice to look at. The EXP, HP, and MP bars are right on the bottom of the screen, so it's very easy to find. The hotbar you can customize to your own needs, so you can look however you want it. It's really damn good, but it's also too small. It might have to do with my bad eyesight though, and some other stuff I won't get into. So I upped the UI and made it bigger. The problem is, it can turn into a mess if I do, because there's no proper scaling options as far as I know. Hope I'm not missing it by not looking in the menus that much, but if it isn't there, I hope they add in a future patch that allows me to scale the UI to a happy medium I can find that isn't too clustered or too small for my eyes. The voice acting in this game is really good. Sometimes I can feel it can be stilted, like Minfilia or Y'shtola feel sometimes, and it's like they weren't given some good direction, but that really isn't a problem in the patches. Sadly, as of 3.0, the voices are all changed, so the ones I enjoyed in this are all gone. Heard the new people are great though, so I'm excited. I played in English, so I have no idea how other languages sound, but apparently it's really good stuff. I would look up who did what voice acting wise, but I'm afraid to look up characters' names because of spoilers, so please understand. And last but not least, the music. So, for 1.0, Uematsu did all the music, and for 2.0 he did answers, but the majority of 2.0 was his work from 1.0 and remixes of them by Soken, Naoshi Mizuta, Ryo Yamazaki, Tsuyoshi Sekito. They all did original track too. Soken takes over after this game as a main sound director. He composed the title theme for Heaven's Sword, so I already know 3.0 will exceed 2.0 in terms of music, but let's not act like 2.0 isn't gas. Some of my favorites are playing in the background right now, and have been throughout the video. I love it so much. The themes went off, man, especially when it comes to boss themes. Soken is the one. Also, the placement for the music is perfect in terms of storytelling. I can tell the vision that they wanted to get across with each scene perfectly because of the music placement. Definitely one of my favorite Final Fantasy OSTs, and I listen to it while working just like I do with the other ones. You will not be disappointed. And that is Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn. 1.0 was a game that was so bad it almost destroyed the Final Fantasy brand, the reason many creatives left the company, but it got revived into this awesome experience. A great introduction to a world. It got me to play an MMO. I was always told it was great and the story was great after A Realm Reborn. You can play like any single player Final Fantasy. Disagree with both of those because A Realm Reborn is pretty great and is worth your time. Don't skip it. And you will have to play with others, but don't let your social anxiety stop you from playing. You do not want to ignore it if you are a single player Final Fantasy only person. It's a great game, a great adventure, and a great Final Fantasy. Thank you so much for watching this video. It was hard for me to do, but I did it. I hope you enjoyed it and I'll see you in Heaven's Ward. If I can actually get into the game, that is. But I think servers are stabilized, so we should be good to go. Alright, thank you guys so much. Peace, Quizity Games, everybody, and I'll see you in the next video.